Order. Well, I'll try it again. I'll even do the hammer again. I'll call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Bolinas Community Public Utility District. Today is April the 15th, 2026. Three directors are now present. Now, Director Alexander Green, I believe, will not be here this evening. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And Walker is coming shortly, I'm sure.
Arriving as we speak.
As we speak. I'll move to community expression, opportunity for members of the audience to address the board on matters which are not on the agenda, but which we would entertain a brief discussion, and that's both Zoom and people in person. Anyone have a community expression item? Janine, is that you?
Yes, it is. Let me see if I can get the visual. No visuals, but that's okay. So here's Kirsten. Yes, so I'm assuming that you got the letter from Randy and I in your packet.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, good. And you did not receive any other information. I thought you had, but you didn't. So I'll try to be brief. This is just a review, and then hopefully next month we'll have something on the agenda that perhaps could be voted on or get your approval or your information, more information. Basically, there's a number of issues that have all come up. One is that the community center is in need of a lot of building repair, and will have to do a major fundraising and doesn't even know if they'll be able to reach what they need. So part of this is a look at how to raise money for the community center. Part of that we were hoping that could be brought in through the seawall project, which will have the public benefits project, and apparently that will have a fiscal sponsor. Now, who that is ultimately is decided by AMJT, but we do believe it will be a local entity, and we are hoping that that could possibly be the community center, because it's a substantial set of 5 projects, and that would be very helpful. AMJT did express some interest in helping with the beach cleanup and that kind of thing. So this is we're trying to get more information. We're still putting it together. So that's one aspect of it. The other part is, of course, the bins, the situating of the bins, the correct bins, and putting them in a way that is aesthetically, let's say, pleasing to people who visit. So that would take some design consideration and some cost. I know that the AMJT will pay for the bins. I hope that they're the right bins. Then along with that is completely coinciding with your beach committee recommendations, which has to do with public education, keeping the garden going, better signage, all that kind of thing. We had thought of perhaps a QR code regarding parking and all the things that the visitors don't know about. I've worked on site for 20 years in that garden, and I get the strangest questions, but a lot of them are similar in terms of bathrooms and gas and that sort of thing. They also want to know, where is the beach when the tide is in? So I have to tell them that there are tides and it's just not here right now. So, a tide chart, that kind of thing. So we're trying to put together a packet, and Georgia has been great helping us, Georgia and Bell. So we want to pursue that, and I want to reach out to your beach committee and get some ideas. Since seem to be at a time when we're looking at our beach entrances, this seems like a good time to do it. Also, because there's a potential, possibly, hopefully, in some way, to get some funding. So, do you have any questions? Or
I do. Janine, I remember years ago there was a funding effort, and we personally gave towards that, but that was a combo of Wharf Road and Brighton. Can you remind me what happened to that funding?
Yes, so I believe it was the Rod and Boat Club gave money to make improvements down at the end of Wharf Road, but that
And you and McDonald.
Yeah, and a bench for you and that sort of thing. Now that never materialized, and I gave the money back a couple years later. David Kimball suggested that was the best route because it looked like it wasn't going to happen at that time. I would still love to see something happen down there that's better than it is now. Also,
Okay, but that's not part of this effort right now, obviously.
it is actually, because it's both beach entrances. And I don't think we should exclude one for the other. It's trying to have a high standard for both of them, and funding for both of them, because the community center no longer wants to pay to pick up trash at the end of wharf. There are no bins down there, and there hasn't been any trash. I don't know if that'll change over the summer. Those are all unknowns. For the Brighton Beach entry, there was a lot of volunteer work and fundraising, and clean up the site was an old junk pile.
You know what, Gene, I'm sorry, but Janine, I'm gonna interrupt you only because this is a community expression item that should have a relatively brief discussion, and
Sure.
not that the merits of what you're talking about aren't important, but it's almost an agenda item of its own about beach entrances.
Yes.
So perhaps that's what we should do, George, is put this on as an item for the next agenda, specifically about entrances to the beach at both ends.
Yep.
And then we can consolidate some of this information she's providing and have a better discussion. But I
Yeah.
hope you understand, for purposes of community expression, I think you made your points clear, and I think that we're ready to move forward on them.
Yep.
Okay.
I
Thank
would only suggest that you add Janine to your community expression, the Wharf Road. They're images of Brighton, but not of Wharf, if you're planning to do that.
Oh, we will. Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, there you go. All right, thank you. Is there any other community expression?
I have.
All right.
First, I want to say thank you to staff and admin and board and everyone who was connected with repairing that leak that had us without water for a whole day. To get back water the next day was fabulous. And I think it worked without any major crisis on anyone's part. So the publicity about it was good, and the response was good, and the repair work happened so quickly. So thanks. for
Can I
getting
just
that.
clarify, was it a day? I thought it was done by midnight.
Well, I wasn't up to check. So I didn't
Okay,
notice.
because we never lost pressure, but they did
Oh,
share that
really?
Yeah.
on the website, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So what
Okay.
is your community expression item?
So that's, thank you. And the other is I would like to get on one of the agendas, further communication about the solar presentation that was brought up at the civic group meeting. There was a presentation by a person who came in, and I think you have probably gotten that same.
We had,
And I know you have a lot to do and can't handle it with the staffing that you have now, but I have been in conversation with people. There was a lot of enthusiasm for it. And there are people who do have background in ways to be able to do such a thing. So I don't want that just to die as a concept. If there are people who could work under the BPUD offices and get that going, I think it would be fabulous.
okay, and what, did we have any follow-up?
Yeah, I continue to communicate with Bob Kraus, who also presented to us. I'm happy to hear that it was received enthusiastically, because that's basically what we're looking for. I agree that there's promise to this kind of piecemeal way to build our kind of electrical independence. But as you say, we just don't have the bandwidth to really lead the charge on it. So the idea was that Bob would present at that meeting, and we've continued to send out letters to, select people that we think would be helpful. And he's just trying to galvanize like a force that can really lead the charge on it.
That would be so great.
Yeah.
So we're supportive of it, but
Great.
as you said, yeah, we can't really do much
So
more
we
than
could-
be.
Get on the agenda at some point.
We're supportive of the efforts, and when it
Okay.
gets to a point where the
Yeah.
board should do something, then,
Okay,
yeah,
all right, great, thanks.
thank you. Any other community expression items? Okay, none appearing. Are we gonna consider amending the order of items on the agenda, as far as you know?
I don't.
Item
Think so.
number 2.
Can I change the
That's
The
what's
screen.
next.
can I change the screen so we can see who's here? 'Cause
Oh,
we
yeah,
can't
of
see it.
course.
I wasn't sure if
Do you-
sort
do you-
of kind of
Grace?
Barry is here.
Yeah, it's moved over.
Yeah,
You got it?
yeah.
There you go. I think that's
It looks
better.
like he
Is
is.
that all?
And you can even change it to.
It looks like Sergeant Ratliff is here.
Okay.
Okay.
Please call me Chris.
Another
Uh,
Chris, two Chris's.
All right. Well, I think we're coming right up to you on the agenda right now. Let me just confirm that we are not considering amending an order of items on the agenda. Is that right, George?
Yeah, I think this is fine.
Okay. That brings us to action items, public hearings, receipts, and notices. There's nothing on number one. Number two is Lieutenant, Chris Berry of the Marin County Sheriff's Office is what it says on the agenda to discuss enforcement strategies related to recently enacted parking ordinances affecting Bolinas to respond to questions from the Volunteer Downtown Parking Committee. And is it?
So I took his
That
place.
was with us instead, is that right?
Yeah, he was unavailable today, so we spoke about it a week or so ago, and I'm here in his stead.
Fine, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So we have somebody here from the parking committee. We also have a resident of Warfro who's on the board who perhaps can make introductory remarks or kind of lead this discussion.
Who's been working with the parking committee. And I don't think we need to go through the history. And I believe maybe you had been sent some documents, Chris. Hopefully you might have had a chance to read that. And we also have Sherry, who's been leading this effort around the parking, along with, I see Bruce is here. Al and Chuck have also been participating if they're not online. And in summary, there are some questions. I know the committee has put together a series of questions, and Sherry's would like to speak to some of them. And is it Bruce may want to also speak to some of them? And it's mostly, I'll just quickly summarize. It's really looking at Brighton, as well as Wharf and downtown. I think the parking and any kind of offenders have been well addressed. I can speak for Wharf Road, being a Wharf Road resident. I think there is some questions about Brighton and just wanting to know what your process is, looking at how things get tagged, if people are calling it in, if, the vehicular length. There's an awareness on Brighton that maybe people are not only living in their vehicles, but they are also using it as storage. And so I think that's probably it.
And I got a copy of that list of questions. So however you want to proceed, if you want to go first and kind of share some more with me, but I've got a list of them here in front of me, so I'm happy to follow along.
That's great.
I was going to suggest that since you've seen the list of questions already and had some time to think about the responses, before we start repeating any questions or pursue it, maybe you're prepared to respond to what is obvious, the concerns.
Yeah, I'm happy to read off what I was given, and I'll start with, and let me know if you can hear me okay. If it's,
Yeah, we fine.
Perfect.
Okay. So I've got a list of the stats, we'll call it, from October 1st, run through April 2nd of this year, about 180 days. And these are what we call the winter months. So for night shift and day shift, there were extra patrols, which is when a deputy goes out and puts himself out on the radio saying they'll be in on extra patrol. There was 28 extra patrols. There were 10 foot patrol radio calls, 56 just out on portable, and 4 different patrol checks. And the parkers for their deputy initiated parking violations, 6 between 02 and 0600. And so the total is 104 over 180 days. And that doesn't include just us being in the area. We don't call it every time we're on a street. So I would probably feel safe to say it's probably double that amount. And that's probably a safe estimate to consider the time that we're down there. There were 13 total parking complaints called in by the residents. None of them during the 02 to 0600 hour. So nothing early in the morning. It was all proactive for us going out there. So there were 45 citations issued with a total of 55 different violations noted. So in that 180 days, there were 45 cites issued, encompassing 55, like I said, violations. Over half of the cites and violations were for no parking zones, like the fire hydrants, red zones, fire lanes, and only 2 of those citations were issued for fix-it tickets, meaning they didn't have the right registration or missing a bumper or some other vehicle code that we noticed when we were out there. 12 of the citations were issued for the Bolinas permit zone, the Marin County Code 15.36.020. And of those 12, 8 were issued to Bolinas residents. So I'll circle around to that in just a sec. 3 citations were issued for overnight parking. That's on Park Avenue, where it also has a overnight parking prohibition. And all 3 of those citations were also issued to Bolinas residents. And one citation was issued for parking over 72 hours, it also ended up being a Bolinas resident. So before I go on any further, the one thing that I've heard from deputies and from some responses we've had from some folks that have been ticketed is regarding the permits. So the permits are issued to a specific vehicle. So we just have to be sure that when those permits are attached to the vehicle, they're done in a permanent way, permanent being like tape to the front, the left top or left bottom of the windshield. And it has to show the license plate associated. So when a deputy goes out and looks, they'll look at the tag. And if they see a license plate number on the tag and it doesn't match the plate, I know they've cited at least a couple for that, for it not matching up. And I want to say that, the residents have called and they've been able to work something out. But with the way this code is written, the deputies are out there doing their best to follow it to the letter. So that's one thing I would urge is make sure that folks that do have these permits are attaching them correctly, which is, taped to the front of their windshield inside, and then for the right vehicle, because that becomes a point of contention and confusion when we do go out and try to follow up on this. So that's all the stats I have for the last 180 days. Before we go on to the questions, do you have any questions on those stats?
I do. Hi, I'm Sherry. I've been working on this for a number of years and advocating for these ordinances. These are new. The permit, and then the other 2 we're talking about the vehicle length. And then the 72-hour has a new rule. So this is new to Bolinas, because in the past, up until recently, what we had for parking other than red zones was not enforceable, really. And so now that it is, we want to know, thank you for coming to tell us how it's going. My question is about what you just said. When they do the extra patrols, those numbers, are you saying extra patrols related directly to coming and checking the permits areas that people are parked correctly between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m.? Or are there other extra patrols elsewhere?
It doesn't specify if it's specifically for that, but I know that when the night shift deputies are down there, they've all been instructed to keep an eye out. Now, from the vehicle, if they say they're on extra patrol, the way that would work is, they just say extra patrol on Brighton, let's say, and that means they're just taking extra time, driving slow, looking for folks that may be camping or looking into cars. So the ones that I would really say are specific to the parking are the ones that were on portable, which means they're out of the car walking around. Those are the 56, I think I said, with portable extra patrols, and then 10-foot patrols. So they're the same thing, just called different. So a total of 66 walking around checking for parking violations.
Okay, but I guess I'm still not clear about, what we're trying to find out is how often that you're patrolling specifically for, in this case, the first thing we're talking about, permit violations. Is it every night? Is it 3 times a week? I mean, you gave us numbers, but spread over what specific period? Because things have improved, definitely, and we're very grateful for having this and the work that the sheriff's office has done, but there still is, we do see that there are violations that occur that, you know, you go to sleep at night, there's somebody parked in front of your house that doesn't have a permit, you wake up in the morning and they're still there. And so they haven't left and we don't see a citation. So would be very helpful to know exactly you know, how often it occurs. Yes.
So it's not a scheduled event, and as you can imagine, a lot of what we do is based on calls for service.
Right.
So there might be a couple nights where deputies don't make it south at all because there's so many calls up north, or it's
Right.
one or two big calls that take both of these deputies and then a couple more from other areas. So it's really hard to pin down an exact time, and that'll change. I believe Memorial Day is the switch. We call it the 100 Days of Summer, when all the events start happening and folks really start coming out. That's when there'll be more of a dedicated parking enforcement officer, somebody who will spend time out there. So I think the summer months, when it gets busiest, is when there'll be an actual schedule, although that's during the daytime, but they'll still be there enforcing the other parking restrictions that are there during the daytime hours. But night shift, it's almost impossible to say on these nights we're going to be there, because we just react, you know, mainly to what
Right.
over the radio.
So,
Do you have any other questions on his stats before he?
I think what I was just trying to figure out what he was referring to in terms of a schedule, and you've just said there isn't really a schedule. It's mostly it occurs as needed, basically, as you're doing other work. And so what we've discovered, I just want to make one point here, is that a lot of what we have to do is call it in. It's a little hard to do it between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. So that's kind of the problem about it.
Yeah, the deputies all at night all know that anytime they're down there to drive through and put themselves on an extra patrol. But we try to be there as much as we can. Like I said, and we wish we could be everywhere at once.
Got it.
We get pulled in different directions.
I just had a quick question. The stats are great. Thank you. Two things. One, on the 13 call-ins of 104 violations over 180 days, do you find that those are effective? Is that something that you would be encouraging people to do more of? And then I have one other question. I'll just let you answer.
You mean encouraging as far as issuing citations? Yeah,
Calling in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would always say, if you see something, say something. Especially since this is we'll call a hot topic, and it's a new restriction. Please call it in. And what you want to do when you call it in, and I noticed one of the questions that I don't want to forget to address, is when you do call something like this in, it's called a vehicle abatement or a parking issue. When you call it in, the dispatcher will know how to categorize it. Ask if you can get, it's what's called the L number or the incident number. So when you call something in, ask if they can give you the incident number. And that way, if you want to call and get follow-up,
Okay.
say, hey, I called in yesterday about a parking complaint. Is there anything can you have the deputy call me? And they'll attach that incident number to the call. Then the deputy is able to look it up and give you more details about what occurred.
Okay. Very helpful. And then you mentioned also just some of these are residents having been issued a parking permit and it not being applied either correctly or not aligning. Is that something that you share with the BPUD staff as they are helping issue those? And if not, it would be a recommendation on my part that maybe we get some kind of cadence where if you're seeing a number of these situations, that we maybe be able to share that with.
Yeah, I know they go out and look, obviously for the tag, but for them to reach, are you talking about reaching out to you or just giving us feedback?
Not on a case by case basis, but maybe it's like every 6 months, you know.
Yeah, that's what we've
an
heard.
update.
When some of I hate to call them complaints, but folks that have called up and had an issue with being issued a citation, and once they ask the questions, they realize that, you know, maybe they use it for several different cars. So that's kind of not in the spirit of this.
Yeah, I thought it
Or
was
loan it to a friend when they
stuff.
come over.
Yeah.
Someone's coming to visit and you give them your permit.
Yeah.
So they're parked out front. It's not the permit that's allowed to park there. It's the vehicle associated with it.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I think we've run into a few problems like that. And I understand it because limited parking has got to be difficult. But I did read in this code that there are extenuating circumstances for requesting additional. If you've got something going on, and let's say you have family coming and they're coming with 2 cars, that's one of those scenarios where you want to reach out and say, look, I've got 4 family members driving here. Is there some way you can help me with this? And that's what we're here for, is to find a way to make sure that your guests don't have to park a mile away.
And we want to be here to help support the good work you guys are doing. So
I appreciate it.
thank you on that.
So when you're through with your stats now, is there another section of the questions or another way you
So
want to?
I've got all the questions. I haven't even started the questions. Those were just the stats that we ran. So I'm happy to start going through the questions one at a time.
Okay, you want to address a subject or do you want to present? You want to?
No, I don't. I think you're on a roll, Chris. I would just go through it as quickly as you can. We've got the
Okay.
questions.
Okay.
And we're recording this, right? So
Okay.
we
I'll try
want to be thoughtful of your time.
Long-winded. All right. So questions regarding looks like Wharf Road. Are these violations typically cited during patrols, or should they be reported by residents? We do both. We'll be out there on an extra patrol basis, but if you see something, give us a call. It'll go on our dispatch board, and the deputies will get to it either when they're down there, or they'll take care of it as soon as they can. The second question is requesting that the vehicle move along the typical enforcement response. It depends. It always, like with the sheriff's office, we tend to be more of peacekeepers, I would say, as opposed to hardline, traffic citation issuers. So if we contact someone and they say, yeah, my bad, my fault, I'll go ahead and get out of here, we're usually okay with that. Now, if somebody is completely the opposite and gives us a lot of pushback, then we'll go ahead and take the cite route, because sometimes that's what the education is about, is getting that citation. Let's see. Next question. Please confirm if a trailer and tow vehicle length exceed 22 feet. Are they restricted? Is the combined length of the trailer and tow vehicle considered if they are occupied? Yeah, 22 feet is whatever's attached together. So if a 18-foot truck shows up and a 10-foot trailer shows up, there's your 28 feet. So that counts. If they're occupied, we have an unhoused liaison deputy who's specifically assigned to that. Each deputy will try to make contact and see what their story is, if they're just passing through or if this is maybe a new home for them. We have services we can provide through county health. So we'll do what we can to give that information. If it becomes an ongoing issue, then we'll pass it on to our unhoused liaison, and that's Deputy Michael Thompson, and he's out here on a regular basis. So he's always out here talking to folks to see if we can get them help and get them to move along. But the same restrictions apply to those vehicles as they do just a regular passenger car.
Okay, great. So that's the vehicle length ordinance, those 3 questions.
There's another piece of that, as I
Yeah.
understand it, is if the trailer and the tow vehicle are actually not connected,
Yeah.
then they're not considered over length. Is that accurate?
If they're separate, one's sitting there and the other one's driven away, technically it's not over 22 feet.
Right.
If that trailer is shorter, so it would be a separate vehicle we consider, because it's going to have its own license plate. So it would be, if they were to drop one and go park someplace else, then that trailer does fall underneath the guidelines, so it wouldn't be effective.
If they were separated by 8 inches, it would still
An
not.
inch.
Well,
If
that's
they're
where
not
we look at
involved.
the spirit of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's where you would still want to call, and if someone just detaches to avoid dealing with this, let them know that when you call, a truck just showed up with the trailer, unattached, is not attached to the trailer anymore. He moved a foot up, but clearly they came together.
yeah,
The deputy come out, they can run both plates, see if they come back to the same person probably, and have that conversation. And there is letter of the law and spirit of the law. And that's when we get involved and, explain to them what this is about and hope for that compliance. But if it is separate, then there are workarounds. And that's what all these folks know is, well, I'll just move a couple feet away and I'm good. So that's,
May I just say one thing about that? There was a big discussion with the sheriff's office specifically about that, related to the fishing community because of their trailers. And it was said that if they were not connected, then it didn't, that they weren't violating 22 feet, and even if it was close together. So there was a whole back and forth, and that's what we were told then.
That is correct. That's what I was saying about the spirit of the law. We go out and try to have a conversation and
Okay,
hopefully find a way to get them to comply because there isn't anything legally that we can do.
Yeah,
We hope to explain it and try to remedy that situation.
great, thank you.
thank you.
Welcome.
That good?
On the
Jerry, can we move on to
Yeah,
the
I-
72-hour parking restrictions? Because there are 7 questions.
Yeah, well, there are other people, in the watching that may wanna
Well,
ask.
just-
Well, if he raises his hand, he can.
Let's just stick with the questions that you're answering right now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. Keep going. You want to do the 72-hour
Sure.
questions?
Sure. So I'll skip the 2 paragraphs talking about it. The questions are regarding storage vehicles. If there is an ordinance restricting the parking of uncoupled trailers in our house on residential streets, or is there an ordinance? Do they fall under the 72-hour restriction? They are considered vehicles, correct? So yes, if they've got a license plate, it's going to be considered the same. So if they show up and they're living in it, that falls into the living in a vehicle section, and we'll address that separately and then deal with the parking issue. But normally we address the housing, somebody living in a vehicle, that usually takes care of the parking issue itself when we get them to move along. We do get that on occasion, maybe up on the mesa or towards the tree streets up top. That's more common up there. But that is correct. If it's separate, it's uncoupled, then it's not the issue that we can handle normally. Next question is, how can residents track the outcome of a complaint once it has been reported? That goes back to that incident number.
Yep.
So sure to ask for that incident number.
Yep.
Then you can follow up. Third question, when deputies encounter vehicles that appear to be used for overnight camping, what factors determine whether a citation is issued versus asking the occupants to move along? We'll always start with asking them to move along. Because if we just issue somebody a citation, a lot of times they'll say, okay, I got my cite, I'm going back to bed. And in reality, or they're going to go hang out in their trailer. They'll say, I'm not living here, I just have my trailer parked here. Once we issue the cite, it kind of stops what we're trying to accomplish, which is to get them to move along. So our primary goal is to get them to move. And I don't think a cite sometimes is the best option, because then sometimes they dig their heels in and say, okay, I'll wait for my next cite. And 6 or 8 hours later, we go through it again. So yes, we do try to get them to move along first. Are there areas in Bolinas where overnight vehicle parking is generally tolerated versus areas where enforcement is prioritized? We follow the complaints normally. If folks are calling in occupied vehicles or vehicles that are being lived in, that's where we're going to go, because that's where it's affecting the most folks. If somebody's living someplace off the beaten path that we don't see, that we're not probably going to go out there looking for them, as long as we're getting calls regarding stuff down on Wharf and Bolinas in that area. That's why I'm always a big fan of calling it in. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. So please keep calling. Number 5, if a vehicle leaves a restricted area but relocates elsewhere within town, how is the 72-hour rule applied in practice? Once they move that required distance, clock starts over. We get a lot of that all over the county, I'm sure all over the state. They know the rules and they'll move for a bit and then come back, and that clock does start over. And that's where us giving them a citation, sometimes it takes a while, but if people continue to not pay those citations, that affects them getting registration, and then that gives us another avenue to address that vehicle that's not allowed to be on the road. So moving is what we want them to do. We can't stop them from coming back because it is a public roadway. So that is one of those workarounds that a lot of folks have figured out. So that is a tough one. We deal with that at Binford Road. I'm not sure you guys have heard of some of the housing situations down there. We deal with that quite a bit. All that has its own separate set of circumstances over there. So that is common, but we do our best to keep them moving. What role does social services play when vehicles are occupied by individuals who are unhoused? That goes back to Deputy Mike Thompson. We'll offer them services that we have access to, and if that's not working, we call Deputy Thompson, and he'll make a trip out here and does a great job. He's been doing it for years now, and he's great at either getting them to move or finding them housing or some way to get to another location. So he's a great resource. And when you do call those in, a lot of times when we see them on our board of calls, a lot of times we'll just defer to Mike and say, can you assign this to Baker 1 is his call sign. Just assign this to Baker 1, and we'll have them come out to start because we know it's probably going to be an unhoused person that we're dealing with. So he's a great resource. Are there county policies, legal constraints, or coordination requirements with other departments, such as Health and Human Services, that affect how the sheriff's office enforces parking ordinances or addresses situations involving individuals living in vehicles? Yes, once it's their home, it does change things a little bit. The parking issue doesn't change. It's still a vehicle that has to move or it'll be cited. If they refuse to move, again, that's when we get the unhoused liaison in and try to offer them services that they almost can't refuse because it's frequently a much better situation that they're currently in. So does that answer those 7, or are there follow-up questions on any of those?
Bruce says, thank you.
Bruce,
you just-
you had your hand up?
And you're on mute. Bruce.
Yes, I did. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you for coming this evening, Sergeant. I live on Brighton Avenue and I have for over 30 years, and I've seen a lot go down. I'm close to the tennis court park. All of Bolinas is realizing that our visitation has gone way up, but alas, the sheriff's department hasn't been able in all these years to add more deputies to West Marin. And I know you fellas come through town because I'm here and I see you roll through, and I hope to shake your hand one of these days. But I'm a little bit frustrated. It's so much of this I've heard going way back to Sheriff Doyle, and we had problems then. We're still in many ways dealing with the same problems, but things are getting better. Now we have some ordinances. But my main concern is that, yes, the people of Brighton and Wharf Road, the people from downtown need to speak up, need to let the sheriff's department know, not be shy about, leaving their name and their number and the like. And that's partly our outreach to the people that are now permit holders, because there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. A lot of them are not here as often as others, so they don't always see it, but they have to be aware that things aren't going to get better unless they speak up. That's really all I have to say, because you have done a very good job of answering our questions. And again, I'd like to thank you for coming this evening.
You're very welcome. And then you can
Thank you, Bruce.
let those folks know too that want to call in. If they want to be anonymous, they can be anonymous. The only thing is we won't have a number to call them back on, because we try to honor that as best we can. So if they're afraid of having their name on a record, just say they want to remain anonymous. But here are the 3 vehicles that are parked, and here's the descriptions, and then we'll get the deputy down there and do our best to take care of it.
Thank you. All right, Al Minville, I see that you have your hand up also.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate your coming and talking to us, but I live in a very prominent spot right at the corner of Altura and Brighton. And as much as I appreciate the things that you say in terms of the ordinances being applied, our experience is just not so. I have a vehicle that's been parked across the street from me for over 4 years. 4 years. And it doesn't even run. It doesn't move. The only way it can be moved is be pushed or towed. And I can't even understand how it can be legally on the street. But there are a number of those vehicles up and down the street. And my biggest concern, even though we call them in and we're told by the officer that usually shows up, they say the ordinance is one thing, the policy is another. The policy is if they're unhoused people, they will not take action against them, which for me is a problem because my whole street front is lined with people that are living there off and on. And my biggest concern, as you've pointed out, the 100 days of summer is coming up. And by allowing vehicles to be parked on the street that are clearly long-term residences and people housed there, you're basically inviting other people to pull in behind them. And pretty soon the entire street is filled, which happens almost every summer, with people that are either traveling through as tourists, moving in for the summer, whatever. And that street, all the parking, I've counted up to 35 parking places taking occupied for multiple days and weeks without enforcement. So I hear what you're saying about the ordinance, but the reality of the policy that's applied to that ordinance seems to be restricting the sheriff's ability to actually take any action. And that's the thing I can't reconcile. I don't understand how that works. And then as a secondary part of that, it puts us, the neighbors, in direct conflict with the people who are on the street. And they may be the nicest people in the whole world. But the reality is we end up getting people who threaten us, who threaten our property, who my daughter-in-law was threatened. There are kids that came down for school buses were threatened by people who are moving in and out on that street. So it's not the people who necessarily are there, but it's the people who come and go. And they come and go because it appears to be okay. That's my problem, is that the policy is different than the ordinance enforcement. And I hear you saying they're really one and the same, and it has not been my experience. I'm hoping, based on what you said, that we can expect that the ordinances will be enforced strictly, which would be fine. It would work if that was the case.
Right. So on that matter, there is case law on the ways that we have to interact with folks that are living out of their vehicles and are unhoused, and that sometimes does restrict us. But creating these ordinances, I think, has been a great step. I notice, I'm looking at the map here on my screen, that it is just on the residential side. It may be something to discuss in the future. I'm just looking at it, from the outside in. But if people that are in their vehicles living there, it may be something to talk about with occupying vehicles, overnight, or living in your vehicles, something to be addressed. Again, I would encourage you to keep calling it in. The more we go out there, the more we'll get used to seeing those folks, because as you know, deputies change every 12 hours. But Deputy Thompson is here for the long haul. And the more we can get him out there, the more we can get people moved along. And the hard part is stopping them from coming back or someone else taking that spot. It's taken extraordinary measures in Novato for Deputy Thompson to stop it over in North Novato, but he's managed to find a way. So if what I can do is I'll reach out to Mike when we're done here and talk to him about this. And I'm happy to reach out to you, Ms. Wood, and give you an update on what my conversation is and see if there's another direction we can go to at least, stem the incoming tide of folks that are doing this.
Well,
right.
again, just one last thing is I just want
Al, real fast, Al.
very fast, as I want you to understand that every time we call in, we are creating a potential conflict with people on the street who know who we are, and it is intimidating to us. And you don't get a lot of calls from people who are have just given up and don't want the conflict. So, it's not a good situation, and there's a lot more to it than just people parking. It's okay.
Yeah, I understand. I wish I had a simple answer for you, but the only way we're going to know about it is if folks do call. And I know it's easy for me to say because I don't have to drive and pull in one of those driveways. I always say, call us if you need us, but I can only try to put myself in your shoes if you're living right across the street. But the only way I can see to deal with this is to keep getting us down there. Keep calling and letting us know there's somebody being rowdy and has made threats and is doing whatever it is they're doing, dumping maybe their waste matter, and that's a crime. There's different ways to handle this, but the more you call us, the more attention we'll pay it. And we've got the extra patrols at night, and I know they're trying to go down there during the day shift too. But I wish I had a better answer for you. I'm sorry.
Right. Well, no, that was good. That was a nice response. All right. I see another hand up. Trish,
Oh,
can you hear me?
Yes, hello. And I'm sorry I'm coming late, so if this question was asked and it's been answered, I'm sorry to be repeating it. Let's see, my sister and I have a home on Park Avenue, right where Brighton and Park fork, where there's like a row of about 5 houses. I guess I was just wondering if it's how would we go about requesting just a parking sign that, stated what the parking restrictions are? because that stretch of road just has no signage, so there would be no way for anybody to know, like, oh, I can't, it isn't okay to be here for 2 weeks. There's just no signage. So it seems like it's a setup for somebody to get a ticket,
Right.
even if.
See it on the map where it shows no parking. So you're saying there's no signage all the way up Park from Brighton?
Just that stretch of 5 houses from the, where the Brighton
corner.
Fork, and there's like a church, from where the church, those 5 houses, that stretch there, which is like primo parking.
Right.
There is no signage saying that no 72-hour.
Okay.
It appears that you could park there forever and there's no problem. So
Okay.
just get some sort of.
Well, let me do this. When we're done with this, I'll make a run down there and I'll take a look.
Okay.
A lot of times the signage maybe isn't very clear. Because normally they're pretty good. DPW is pretty good about marking everything. So
Yeah.
folks know, because we'll go down and we'll look and make sure the signage makes sense before we cite someone. But it may not make sense to someone who doesn't look for parking signs every day. So I'll make a run down there and see if it is the way it's supposed to be, and maybe a sign's been removed, maybe it's just not in the right spot, and then I can reach out to through the proper channels and see having something added, because we just want to make sure people are aware where they can and can't park.
Yeah, that stretch there is just no way to know. So maybe something was removed. So I appreciate that.
You know, is
Thanks
this
a lot.
just, I'm looking at the map, is this the Park Avenue Brighton intersection closer to the water or closer to downtown?
Closer to downtown.
Okay, perfect.
I'll let him go down there because he said that, that wants to take a look.
Department of Public Works tomorrow.
Okay,
Right.
yeah, look at that.
All right, let's get, all right, well, somebody else, Rob Gailey, you have your hand up? Not anymore? All right, why don't
Rob
we,
could probably take his hand down.
Yeah.
Just to give.
Yeah, can
Sherry
you hear me
credit.
now? Can you
Yes.
hear me now? Great, thanks. So just to follow up on that one, so in that section, there is a vehicle that's been parked there, a pod, our pod, for months. It hasn't moved. And now there's a sign there that says, hey, our pets sleep in the road. Could you drive slowly? So, there's sort of a progressive sort of a situation that occurs here. And I feel for the people who live there. I drive slowly anyways. I look for the cat that's named Mouse and all the rest of it. But, there's sort of a progressive element to this that should be recognized. I just want to lend support to the last speaker.
I appreciate that. I wish it were something just in Bolinas that we would have to deal with and it'd be a quick fix. Not that it makes you feel any better, but this is going on everywhere. It's like a new way of folks trying to find a place to stay. So when there's a big fix for all of it, I think it'll trickle down. But all we can worry about now is our little slice of it. So I'll still make a run down there and see if I can figure out what's going on with that signage, that particular vehicle.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Where are we on the question list?
Monitoring information.
Which you answered.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think you answered everything,
Yeah.
particularly. for
but I know you've
beginning.
been with us now for about a half hour, and I think it's only fair to let you wrap it up.
Well, and he's got to get on the road.
I'm here. I was told this was from 6 to 8, so
Oh, good, all right, well,
good for me.
go get another cup of coffee.
I just pulled up the map very quickly, and I want to give Sherry one quick opportunity, or just
Okay.
acknowledge, maybe rather than speak to it. But Sherry is saying she's going to DPW tomorrow,
Perfect.
and
About
so
signage.
about signage, and I can see on the map that area looks like where there's no red. Maybe there is no signage there. So
There is no
Sherry,
Yeah.
okay, so it sounds like Sherry, you already know this, and you're going to talk to DPW tomorrow.
There is no signage because there's no restriction for it. The only restriction is 72 hours. And what these people should do is call you and say, this vehicle has been here more than 72 hours.
Yeah.
And it needs to go. I mean, it's been there. I noticed it too. That's the only thing. If you don't have a permit area, if you're not living in a permit area where there is that restriction, you have the 72-hour regulation that was just modified in 2024 asked for a 500-foot move.
Right.
And so that's what your officers there have been using a lot. But not for everyone has it, and so that would be the thing to do. And I am meeting with a Department of Public Works staff person about there is some signage missing for the permit area. And part of that was because of the seawall repair. And he is coming tomorrow morning, and so I can show him what's missing.
Great. All right.
I just want to say thank you not only to Chris for your quick response answers, but also to the committee because they put all these questions together, and I think it's very informative.
No worries. Whatever we can do to help.
Yep, it's
Yeah.
a partnership. We need you. So
Well, we
Thank you.
thank you for appearing and dealing with these questions and just the ongoing effort. It just goes on. So we appreciate it.
You're welcome. Miss Wood has my email and contact info, so feel free to pass it along. I'm assigned to this area, Point Reyes, Bolinas, Stinson, this whole area till mid-August. So if something comes up, you can always reach out direct if it's not anything urgent. And also Lieutenant Barry, if you want, totally up to you. But I'll be the one responsible for this until about mid-August.
And then you get relocated to another jurisdiction. Is that what happens? Chris?
No, then you get a more seasoned sergeant with a much more seniority than I do that realized how good of a gig this is out here. So he's bumped. We're getting Sergeant Richardson, who is everybody's favorite.
Maybe you get to come back sometime.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're gonna then end this item on our agenda. Thank you very much, and we'll continue.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All righty. I'm going to then move
Does
on.
Bill want to take Al's hand down?
Oh, okay. Can she do that?
Yep.
Hey, you're right on it. Moving on to item, to the next subject, which is contracted work related resolutions and approvals. Item 3 on the agenda. Resolution number 2026-2 declares an emergency exists and authorizes Piazza Construction to repair booster pump pipeline phase 2. Georgia?
Yeah, so this is, you guys are familiar with this, but basically we did work to repair under emergency conditions, the booster line that was continually leaking. I think that was in October. And then, basically that line still needs to be buried. There's a couple of service lines that we're using this opportunity to move in better positions. We're working with Commonweal around that. So you'll see that in the scope of work, just like delineated as separate work. Because ultimately, we'll contract with Piazza to get this work done, but then we'll look for reimbursement from Commonweal to pay for effectively the work on their service lines. So that's pretty much it. And again, the resolution spells out why this is effectively a second phase of emergency work. And so if you could approve the resolution, see if you have any questions.
I have questions.
Okay.
But I don't want to take up the entire thing.
Well, ask a question if you
Okay.
have one.
So it says in the resolution not to exceed 52,500, but there are some exclusions. And so I just want to make sure, do we have it is going to potentially exceed 52,500.
Yeah, that's a good point.
A fixed fee, but there are exclusions. So
Yeah.
that would be one thing.
Okay.
If you need us to approve this tonight to allow you to be empowered, I would just say add 10% or something like that.
Yeah. I'll
and
just
then-
say plus 10%.
Okay. The other thing is, I completely support why it would be in our interests because they are a known entity and they know the site and they know the issue, why we would not go to competitive bid and it's time sensitive. I don't love that, but I understand why. So I'm supportive of that. What I do have a little bit of a problem with is their proposal doesn't break out what's the labor, what's their hourly rate, how long is this going to take? Is this 5 guys, 5 days, or 2 guys, 2 days, and their hourly rate is $185 an hour, something like that. Because it's a fixed fee, it's also really hard to qualify. Could they give us the labor versus the materials?
Yeah, when they invoice for it, obviously all of those details are there. And so this is just a and I can show you one of, their detailed invoices,
Okay.
like it's very detailed, right? It's like, this mobile equipment was used for 2 hours. I mean, I will say that often they're very close to the quote.
Yes.
So it's a little bit of reverse engineering probably.
Mhm.
But I have, whenever I approve those invoices,
Mhm.
the chief operator sits down with me with the invoice and just assures me, goes over them and says, yeah, 5 guys were there for 6 hours, and essentially, because we have to be involved obviously with
Sure.
these projects anyway.
Mhm.
So that's kind of, our sort of oversight is
Mhm.
usually at that level.
Mhm.
But I agree, maybe having more details from this.
Well, just somebody put together a quote, but that got us to 43,500.
Yeah.
Pretty, it's still a round number, but it's specific enough to say, how did you get there?
Uh-huh.
I mean, they've got to know how much labor and materials that.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't
Okay.
mind, I would hope that we can approve this tonight, and when I do this in the future, I will ask for more detailed breakdown of the quotes that, like, I mean, obviously not to the level of the invoice.
Yeah.
And I will, after the meeting, just share with you one of those invoices so you can see sort of, have a little more faith in that we're not just completely turning a blind eye to.
No, I don't think you
Yeah.
are. I mean, I'm just responding to the estimate.
Yeah.
And then if they could tell us how much their overhead and profit is. Like, I want them to make money. I just want to know how much. If we're not going out to bid, are they negotiating with you on typically we have a 15%? Well, because you're such a great client. we spend a lot
Yeah,
of
it's
money,
hard
we're gonna
because
do
we
that.
have, I mean, obviously you can see this is, we can't forge formal relationships with Piazza around, hey, we give you so much work, therefore can you give us a discount, because we have to go through this public bidding. And the reason that we have to pass this emergency resolution is because otherwise something that's above $15,000 has to go out for public bidding.
Mhm.
At the same time, it's true that we have like a symbiotic relationship there, right?
Yeah.
Like it's incredibly, and to Jenny's point at the beginning, it's like, yeah, the reason we were able to fix that leak that quickly, even though it was incredibly disruptive, is that we have forged this relationship with them where they're incredibly responsive on a Saturday night. So it's hard.
Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah, Easter Saturday. Yeah. So, and Super Bowl Sunday, and it's just like goes on and on. Any kind of important day, we will have a leak.
Yeah, I don't want to
So-
get in the way of that relation. But
No, and I mean,
I'm
it's-
just responding to what I saw in the numbers.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I agree. It's it's hard, and it's also it's not a super transparent process for me when I look at a quote like this, but at the same time, we have a really great working relationship with them, and when I can scrutinize it, I feel that they're honest, and we can back up what they're paying or charging us, but I will ask around that, just profitability and stuff. I think that's important.
All right. Any other discussion on this? And if not, can I get a motion to go ahead? Kevin?
Question. So during phase 1, I thought that was more of a temporary fix. This, the sort of the 6-inch booster line was failing. So we did a 3-inch sort of, I thought it was temporary. It was above ground. It was sort of like a temporary patch.
No,
But now we're talking about burying that. So we're going from a 6-inch line to a 3-inch line, and that's
yeah,
what we
that
want?
was
Okay,
already
that's part of the design.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, that's all part of the design, and it goes to 2-inch anyway. So it's already,
It was bigger than it needed to be.
yes, it was bigger than it, and it was thin walled, of course, as you guys remember, because it was like, I think originally it was to like accommodate the undulation, but obviously it failed. Anyway, so yes, even though it was basically almost treated like a bypass and that we didn't bury it, but ultimately the reason that we were conceiving of this approach was that investment for the temporary emergency fix was ultimately a long-term fix. It was just basically broken up into 2 phases.
Okay.
And so this is basically phase 2, bury that line. And as I said, there'll be some impact on customers because of this opportunity to modify 2 of the service lines that serve Commonwealth properties.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
any other discussion about this? Can I get a motion then to approve resolution 2026-2?
So
With
yeah,
the
with-
caveat of adding a 10% to the 2,500.
Oh, all right,
Yeah, sorry.
so that's an amendment to the resolution then.
Mhm, yeah, I have that plus 10% there.
Okay, all right. So the motion is as amended. Is
yeah,
Yeah.
as amended, yes.
Yeah.
So move.
there a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 4. Rebecca, pilot approval for rental of hardware.
Yep, this is basically continuation of last meeting, where I presented a lot of material around the an automated meter reading system for our meters. Just to remind you guys, this is basically Subeka is the company that provides the hardware that interfaces with the meters, that sends that data to a cloud where basically then we can get hourly data of usage along those meters, plus some, depending on the type of meters, some metadata. Ultimately, this could move towards a customer interface. I talked to you guys last time about that they had two third parties that they were working with in terms of like billing software and all of that. Annie and I met with Current, which is one of them, and it was pretty amazing to see like all of the tools that we could use through that billing system. So we're pretty excited about that, even independently of, because we could continue to do our manual reads and move over to that Current software. And there was a lot of potential benefits. Just to name some of them, there's just a lot of ability to track, if somebody reports a leak, and to be able to basically piggyback on that software and identify like, oh, we've had 5 leaks on Birch, associated with this portion of the main type of thing. So it's almost like not really a GIS, but sort of a location specific data that we could use. Additionally, we'll get to this later in terms of the large leak that happened during my manager's update. But the other thing is that we could also use this system as an alert system for small or large leaks. So that's kind of, again, not directly related to this pilot, but just wanted to mention that. The pilot, as you can see, is pretty inexpensive. It's 3 months. It's ultimately, obviously after the pilot, we need to purchase the hardware. I decided to do a version where we would rent the hardware, collect the data, and then we can make obviously a decision about how successful the pilot is, and then move on from there. So that's, yeah. Any questions on that? I know Grace had some questions about the data. Just as far as I can, investigate, basically, this type of data that you're relying on, like Amazon Sidewalk, right? What I can tell is that is actually more secure than other AMI and radio-based signals in terms of just how accessible they are. As far as, we own the data, and that's similar to any other AMI system in terms of, it's our data to take with us. But we, as far as the accessibility to the data from third parties or anybody would like hack in and steal it, yeah.
Data farmers more like.
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah. So anyway, of course, we can continue to look into that before we would, choose to build up the program. But I think it's, yeah, anyway, so I'll continue to look into it. But I would say that as far as I can tell, this is more secure than a lot of other AMI systems that we would otherwise use.
All right, well, I think we've.
One more.
This one, go ahead.
One more, yeah, just looking through their agreement with us, it sounds like they're pretty strict about the 90 days return policy. 90 days from the day we receive the units. So I'm just sort of wondering if that's enough time for us to have them. It seems to make sense to have them for a full billing cycle for us, which is 90 days, once they're installed. So I'm just wondering if we want to extend that a bit, or if in your conversation with them, if they would allow us to fudge it a little bit, because just sort of wondering how long it's actually going to take us to install these things and then get them up and running.
Yeah.
And then get the full 3 months of readings, so we can compare it to our existing system, which takes 3 months, to read meters. So just want to ask about that.
Does it actually say when the 90 days begins?
Yeah, it says
Upon shipment?
it does. Yeah, customer will return product 90 days after receipt, or be invoiced for the full non-discounted amount and
Okay.
applicable tax, which is $200 a unit. So
So from the time we receive it,
From the
not
time
when
we
we
receive it,
install it.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what gave me a
That's
pause a little bit, because
Yeah.
if we're trying to get the full quarter
Yeah.
meter reads, then we might want to maybe extend it to 120 days, so we have a
Oh.
little bit of a buffer on the back.
What's
Yeah,
the-
I mean, I guess, what do I think about that? So, I mean, first of all, they're super nice, and
Okay.
I think I told you guys this last time, but basically we did a lot of outreach to people, and I met with somebody from Marin Water who had worked with them, and effectively everybody we heard back from, while they were, I mean, there were some people that were very early on and they had more complaints than the people that are joined further along. So that I thought was a good sign, but everybody said they were really great to work with. So I mean, it's a nominal amount. What I would suggest is you guys approve this. Like, I really wanted to bring this forward. Obviously it's below $5,000. So I don't even think I necessarily needed to bring it forward, but I think, obviously, going in the direction of automated meters is something that I think the board should have a formal approval for.
Yeah.
So this was basically an opportunity for you guys to formally take a vote on, the pilot. But I think what I would suggest is you can just direct me to, ask them further questions related to the 90-day. But my sense is, like, because I mean, just anecdotally, they said, sometimes you'll install stuff and it won't work right away, or, you'll have to return it and we'll pay for all of that. So my sense is that 90 days is not going to be super firm. And if it's, if we said something like, hey, can we have an extra whatever? I also understood that they would, come out and help us with some of this too.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we'll see.
I would suggest, Ken, that we just leave it the way it is.
Yeah.
I am comfortable that what she's saying is gonna work, and
If they're flexible, that's
Yeah.
great. I can imagine it's going to be a bit of work to get them all. I mean, we're talking about 60 units, I think. That's, could be quite a bit of work for the operators to learn the system and get them all up and running. So
And how do you identify which 60?
Yeah, so that's and we're also going to develop the pilot with them. So
Uh-huh.
basically, one of the things that we're doing in house right now is because I think that it talks about that. You can see that there's the wired pin versus the wireless. Okay, so I talked about this last time when we went over it, and I don't want to totally derail us with all of these details, but the one of the things we're looking at is basically, okay, where are we going to put these, the wired pin versions? These are like the fancier versions that have that metadata that can say, oh, we're detecting a leak or whatever. And those ones, of the 20, we're like, hey, maybe 5 of these should go to a few 1-inch meters. So we're like looking at, because obviously, those 20, or maybe not obviously, but the 40 interface with existing meters, we don't have any ultrasonic meters in our system yet. So the idea is we've purchased 20 meters and we're thinking about, okay, we want to do that in a smart way where we're replacing 20 old meters, right? So then that means we need to think carefully about, well, what 20 old meters do we have in our system? We have more than 20 old meters, but which ones can we strategically replace that are going to both serve our long-term needs in terms of, getting out some old meters in our system, but also be strategically placed to get the most information from our pilot study.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's, something we're,
Right.
developing, and that will, again, this isn't going to start till July, so we want all of those kind of wrinkles figured out, exactly what meters we want to change.
Yeah.
Also, there's some issues with, I mentioned before, but basically the wired pin, it literally has a wire that sticks out, and so we have to adapt or get new lids to accommodate those. So that's something that we'll need to, figure out. And just to let you guys know, the 16,000 that was budgeted for this was really for those hardware costs associated with the meter swap, which again is just really independent of the pilot and the automated meter. Like, obviously we need to change out those meters anyway, but you can see the portion for the actual pilot is only $3,000. So
Yeah. All right.
Go.
Any other questions, or I'll ask for, do you need a motion on this, or you just want to inform us?
I figured I wanted you guys to take a formal vote just to, let the community know whether you are in or not in support of automated meter pilot,
Yeah.
which ultimately means you are or are not in favor of automated meters. So I would appreciate a vote, but that vote could just be to direct me to, enter into contract with Civica for the pilot.
Yeah, well, I think it's like the first baby step of a whole journey
Yeah.
towards a different place, and it's a good idea.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah,
Anybody
I mean,
want?
it's a pilot program. We'll see how it goes and
Right.
see if we like it or not.
Yeah, 3 months, 60 units, and
Yeah.
$2,600. All right. Do I have a motion then to
Good job.
direct the general manager to proceed with this
I'll make
project?
that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Okay.
Great.
Thank
I'm
you.
excited about it.
Hope
Yeah.
it works.
Yes.
Item number 12 is.
Item 5, limited water use permit application. I think we passed this one. Is that right?
Yeah, that has been deferred till next month.
Okay.
Because the applicants wanted to be at the meeting.
Sure. Item 6, leak relief request for Ted Presente, Kyle Kennelly, and Becca Mante.
Are they
Is
here?
Kyle here?
Is anybody here on this item?
Were they planning to?
Yeah.
I don't
Hello?
see them. Yeah, I don't know. I thought they were coming.
Do we want to defer it?
Yeah, we can actually defer it, and maybe we can even send them an email, Bell, and just remind them that they're on this meeting. Great, and then if they show up later, we can.
I can
okay.
text and mute my neighbor. Do you want me to?
Yeah, that would be
'cause
great. But I think either way, let's move ahead and then we can.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll send him a quick note asking if he wants to join.
All right. Then we're gonna move on to item 7. Draft year 2026-27 district budget, a draft of an updated 5-year capital improvement plan for 2026 through 30. And then there's also a draft proposition 218 notice for proposed increases to the annual water and sewer service charges. So we do have the budget and the
They're here.
proposed notice.
They're here
I
now.
think they're here if we want to. do
Okay.
Okay, great,
All
let's
right,
just go
well,
back.
in that case, I will go back to item 6. I'll call it again. This is leak relief for 10% and by Kyle Kennelly and Becca Mante. And is somebody here to speak to us about this? Looks like there is. I'm just waiting to hear from her.
You're muted.
Is Becca Mante on the line here? Yeah, I see her. Can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, now we can hear you. So we have before us a request for relief from a leak, and that resulted in a high bill. And you want to briefly address, we do have a memo in the file that describes what happened, but we were interested in mostly how you had notice of this leak.
Yes, yeah. So we were traveling for work and our neighbor is having some construction done. Jake Glavis is the contractor on that job, and he called me when he noticed some mud leaking through from our side of the fence to his side, and he went over and found that the hose was on like full blast, and he didn't know how long for, but it was long enough to have a whole mud pile essentially well up and drift over from our side of the property to the other side. So my guess is that it was on for at least a day, maybe longer. Luckily, he was there and was able to come to our property and turn it off while we were gone. But it's pretty hidden. It's not like an exposed thing. My landlords, James Fox and Rebecca Kaufman, I asked them if that had ever happened to them in their lifetime of owning this place, and it had never happened. It's situated like underneath, right next to a little table, so there's a really small gap to turn on the faucet. So it's just one of those strange things. I have no idea how it could have happened. My guess is raccoons or a deer. I feel like because it's so tucked away that it had to be raccoons. I know that I see them a lot on our deck, and they're curious little creatures. So that's my best guess of what happened there.
I guess it should also be noted that when Jake came over to our property to investigate what was causing this like mud leak, the hose had been pulled fully extended from where it normally sits, and so it was like pulled out from its spigot by like 6 or 7 feet and like was just laying in the middle of the grass just spewing water.
Have we ever had a raccoon reported to?
People who've come to other people's houses and taken, yard
That
showers and
seems more
stuff. Yeah.
likely to be.
So we have a policy about blind leaks, which is our most, what I would call generous policy for relieving most of your bill, which usually arises when there's an underground leak that doesn't appear so that nobody can see it or know, and then when it's discovered, it's repaired. So although this one is not underground, I'm speaking for myself now, it seems like this is akin to a blind leak of that nature. That's my perspective, and that probably is where we are, but I'd like to hear from everybody. Let me start with Grace.
Well, it does remind me, I can't remember where the property was, but the situation that I referenced where somebody seemed to have come and been using the water.
Yes.
And left it on. And
Somebody else's property.
Yes.
people weren't there.
Mm.
And I think that we
Cool.
gave a pretty generous relief because I will make my usual speech. There's a device that you can put on your water line that will let you know with your happy little telephone that you've got water running, even if you're not home. It doesn't cost that much. I think it's a good idea for everybody to have one. So you might want to consider using some of the money that you might save on this leak relief to buy one of those and have somebody install it. You could probably install it yourself. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a variety of ones. I think the one that I know about is called a Flume, Flume, but I'm sure there's several other ones. I'm not specifically recommending that one, but it is great because you get an alert on your phone if you've got water running at your house. So, but I would be inclined to, I don't know how they could have known about it.
No, if it's,
They didn't leave it on.
let me keep going around. What do you think, Kristen?
Yeah, I want to be sympathetic to a situation. It sounds like they were out of town. A hose bib with a hose sounds like it's being used for some kind of irrigation or other. Potable water and plus 11,000 cubic feet is a lot of water. I see that it says $1,500, and Kyle, your letter said, you can't, you have your savings or your use is already a dedicated $1,000. So I'm wondering, and as I said, I want to be sympathetic, but I also have to put my finance committee hat on here and say, we need to be able to recoup some costs, not only the administration for having to address this. So I guess, is there a number that you would be comfortable with? Could I ask that or no? Please don't
Can I
answer
interject
that
here?
question.
Yeah,
Can I interject? Hi guys, this is Kevin. This is your neighbor. So I visited the property. I contacted Kyle. I live nearby, and I asked him if I could come see the situation. So I've seen the the valve in question, and just to answer your question, I looked back at the history of leak relief in the town, and there are a number of hose left on instances that we've granted leak relief to. Those are generally in the 50% range, or pretty much always 50%. There was one where we didn't give any leak relief. It's not clear why, but generally if a hose is left on, it's not considered a blind leak, I would say, because it's visible. You can see it's above ground. So that's just the history I saw of leak relief. As far as the conditions in your yard, I was sort of flummoxed on how it could have happened. I mean, I know little Mesa raccoons are like probably the smartest raccoons in the world, but I think it's not likely that it was a wild animal. But I'm not a wildlife expert, so I can't really say. But like with the smart meter, that's one way to monitor your water usage. I also told you in person when I was there that when I leave town, I just shut off the water to my house. It's a valve. I just turn off so that there are no decrease the chance of these sort of things happening. So that's another thing you can do to prevent that. So I would say just based on history of what this board has done, a 50% relief is what we've done.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks for doing that.
All right.
Thanks for not answering the question. The only other question I had is, do we ask the people, or could there be a policy for people who have experienced the leak and are being given a relief that they do install a valve?
I think we decided not to do that because if we go
I know.
to the automatic system, they
It
would have
might
had to
solve
spend
that.
Yeah.
It might solve that, okay.
So
That's pretty much what I was recommending, Grace. I mean, this
Yeah.
had to do with, and we've been deferring basically our review of our leak relief policy because there's a number of things of that nature where it's like common sense, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? I feel like it's a little bit premature, and I would feel badly having made somebody invest money in a flume and then we're telling them,
Right.
okay, now you have to pay, we have to increase our revenue collection to support automated meter transfers, and they've just forked out $200 for a flume.
Right.
So that's kind of how I approach it, is we're
Okay.
just in a kind of dynamic state, which doesn't make
Yeah.
make a lot of sense to put a lot of effort into revising the leak relief right now.
Okay, thank you.
So now it sounds like you're in agreement with what Kevin is saying about the hose left on data and a 50% reduction. Is that or
I mean, I read the letter, and so I would even be open to a third, which is less than 50.
less than 50?
I
And
wanna
Grace,
be
what's your
specific.
I would go high. I would go 75. So
uh-huh?
because I don't. This wasn't. I think that when in the past when we've had the hose type things, it's been the gardener left it on,
Right.
or there's been
A human who left it on.
right. There's been somebody who was not being careful, and I'm not hearing that here.
Right.
Right. That's what they're saying.
And I guess I was trying to wage what you were suggesting, which is this is an underground, but
it's not.
I'm hearing more information about the history. Thank you for digging
The
into
history
that.
is there's not many hose left ons.
I think
Actually,
there are about 10. I didn't count them
Yeah.
out. I think it's
Well,
about
Grace is right. The hose left on ones are always a human being left the hose on.
Right. Those
These people are
tend to
going,
be
we were
less-
gone and this got left on. So either somebody snuck in to do it or it was an animal of some sort. Also, I would tell you that, Rebecca, that one of the things we recommended on these hose left on complaints is that, you have a handle which turns that hose on and off.
Yeah.
And if you were to remove the handle whenever you go away,
Yeah.
then chances are that, that wouldn't happen again because now you would need a wrench or something to turn it on.
Yeah.
So that's another
I can
solution.
say that I have that. I'm on Wharf Road, so I'm highly exposed for anybody to want to come and turn. Oh, there's a hose bed. And
You
this
take
is-
the handle off.
I take the crank. Yeah.
All right,
It's
well,
like a key.
So we need to have a decision here among several proposals.
Could I just add one more statement?
Sure.
This is a super significant amount of money for us, so I'm
Sure.
very grateful for any forgiveness. But yeah, my wife and I are working multiple jobs to try to be able to live here. It's definitely not easy. So anything that you guys are able to do to help us will go a super long way. I have a pretty tight food budget monthly. I try to keep everything under $1,000. Gas and groceries, but yeah, so that's kind of like our state. So anything that you guys are able to do to help us with that, it would be tremendously appreciated.
Sure.
Which I appreciate, but I also think we need to have a policy that we can pretty much.
Well, we need to be consistent with the way we deal similar situations. So I think we're somewhere between the 50 and the 90, to be honest. And somebody said 75. Who said that?
Me, Grace.
So I would probably lean towards the 75 myself. When you two think about that.
I'm torn. I want to help out a neighbor, but I think being consistent with what we've done previously is also important.
Yeah.
But we haven't had this, I think that hose left on is, the ones that have come through since I've been on the board have been different than the situation. That's
Okay.
my point. I agree with you about consistency, but this seems like an anomaly
Okay.
to these other, because when it says hose left on, it doesn't really,
Yeah.
there's not much descriptor there, right?
There's not a lot of detail. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do remember listening to one before I was a board member. Somebody couldn't explain the hose was left on. They I think similar situation. They weren't at home. They came home, or a neighbor called them saying your hose is running full blast, and they had no idea how or who could have done it or what. So I mean, I think these things do happen.
Occasionally.
There's somebody in town going around turning on hoses or something. I have no idea. But
Well, sometimes people do come onto property and use it, but yeah.
you just wish they'd turn it off.
But they don't. Yeah.
I will say, reducing it by 50%, I believe, and Georgia backed me up on this, let's say we reduce your, we give you a 50% break, it actually reduces your bill by more than 50% because
Yes.
cutting off the more water you use per quarter, the more expensive the water gets. So we're cutting off the most expensive 50%. So your bill would be reduced by more than 50. Is that correct?
Yes, and actually it gets to an incredible complexity of how we determine these leak reliefs. One thing that Belle and I mean, this is a little bit of an aside, but I feel like every time we talk about leak relief, we are like, so let's talk about leak relief. Is that one thing I was recommending because I was seeing Belle beating her head against a wall, just like even to calculate this, it's just so ridiculous because you have to because of our progressive tiering, and then you have 90%, but then you're averaging your last usage, and it's just like this ridiculous formula. Would be that if you applied their normal tiered usage to what they actually used.
Okay.
So you say you're normally in tier 1, we're just going to look at the 11,200 you used, your bill will be X dollars.
Okay.
So as it turned out, I mean, I think I wrote it down here somewhere, but anyways, I don't think we want to modify the leak relief midstream here, but just letting you know that it ended up being pretty similar to this crazy formula that we apply and is so much simpler.
Sure.
And also I think makes more sense than these arbitrary 90%, 50%, obviously you could apply something on top of that, but when you just do that in terms of how impactful the tiering is, where you go from a $1,500 bill, I think it was like 143, right? So the tiering is a huge part of why these leak relief requests, why people have such an enormous bill that they're having to contend with. And I think almost in all cases, you can make even like blind or not blind, like that person was not intentionally being using water in a non-conservative manner, right? So that's one thing about.
But we always look at the circumstances of the leak, and we're much less sympathetic to automatic irrigation systems or toilets that are running because nobody is home to find, you know,
Yeah.
all the way up to a pipe broke under the ground and no water surface and, how- you know. So I do think it has to be within the context of the circumstances,
Yeah.
which is why we have those gradations between 90% and nothing.
Yes.
To-
And we have the bill that is at 90%, just to let you know, because I know Kirsten's always like, what is it? It's 136.26 is basically what the bill would be based on their usage, and that would be 90%. So obviously, again, the formula is complicated, but
Yeah.
basically 50% is somewhere between 1,500 and probably a lot closer to 136.
Uh-huh. Well, we need resolution so we can make a decision and move on and let these people know what their costs will be. What are your thoughts? Let me go one more time around
I still think that I'm still
at the
at
75.
75.
Yeah, and what do you say, Kevin? You still at the,
I'm still at 50 just to be consistent. You know, I don't want to play favorites. The neighbors are, you know, I'm just trying to be consistent.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right, and Kirsten, you're at the lower end of below the 50.
You can we skip me?
Well, you know, I mean, the only thing I can think of, classic lawyer, is that I would take Grace's proposal and Kevin's, and I split the difference
60 something.
and whatever that is. So that's between 90 and
I was
70.
gonna say the same thing, and I'm not a lawyer.
I was thinking that too.
There you go. You don't have to be a lawyer to figure that one out. So if you go from 50 and 90, then the difference is 70%. Is
62.5.
I mean, I'm sorry, 60.
Sorry, are you saying 75? So
Oh,
between 50
yeah,
and 75?
62.5.
62.5.
62.5.
Which gets it down pretty low, right?
Yeah. So what do you think about that, Kevin? You willing to?
Yeah, I can live with that. Yeah.
All right. What do you say, Grace?
Compromise.
Can you live with
I
that,
can
Chris?
live with that.
There you go. And when you-
Yes, please.
there you go. All right. That's how sausage is made.
And unfortunately, Belle is gonna have to, type away on her piece.
I don't know. I
Can we just
really
round that up
liked-
to 63?
Yeah, let's round it up to 63.
Okay.
I really liked your idea about just applying tier one. That just makes so much sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it will probably be very similar.
I
to
know.
the places.
Run the numbers a little bit, and if it's going to be that similar, then I would be perfectly comfortable making that decision before we redo the entire leak relief thing. We can just say, okay, we're applying tier one.
Well, take a look at it. Maybe.
Like a percentage.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you guys can just direct us, we will not go above. If it's less than, we will pick that number if you guys don't mind.
So
Okay.
of the two, either
Yeah,
either apply
63.
to tier one or 63%.
Yes, whichever is less.
Whichever is less.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Can I get a motion to that effect?
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
And then the nice thing about that is that it lets these folks know that their bill, because 63% means nothing to them, right?
Right.
Unless they go through that formula.
Mhm.
So it lets them know that basically you guys have voted to relieve to something at 140, whatever it was, or that that's basically
The bill will be reduced from what it was to $140 or less.
yes. Or less.
Something in that neighborhood.
That's what we're
Okay.
voting on. Does that make
So
sense?
did you folks hear all of that?
Did, yeah, much appreciated. Thank
And
you.
we do also really appreciate the fact that you've been very low water users all these years, aside from this one little moment.
Yeah, we
We
can
can
serve.
serve.
Yeah, no, we can tell. We're looking at
Yeah,
the stat.
yeah.
Thank you for that.
We try.
We do need a vote.
Yes.
Okay, so we have to take a vote.
I
Every
think so. We
vote.
got a motion and a
Well,
second, right?
okay, so all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, yeah, and one thing Bella is pointing out too, just for anybody, and this is leak relief or not, but we're incredibly flexible in terms of how people pay us. So if somebody has difficulty paying a bill, they can pay us over, time and increments, and
Right.
it's just something
And
to
that's
always
just between
point out.
them and you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
We
just
don't need to
informal,
do that.
but
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh.
thank you.
Becca, did you hear that?
We did, yeah.
Thank you so
Okay.
Okay, so with that, I think I'm gonna move on back to item 7 on the agenda, and thank you for attending, and good luck on your water meter.
Yeah.
Get
Might want to take that handle off.
take the handle off. All right, so I'm back to item 7, which was gonna be the next year's budget, plus a draft of an updated 5-year capital improvement plan, and also the draft Proposition 218 notice.
Yes.
about proposed increases
Yes.
in water and sewer. So I guess we should take these separately.
Yes, I think what I would like to focus your guys' attention in the way that I sent this material to you, the most important thing for us to come out of this meeting is any edits or modifications to the actual Prop 218 notice that will be mailed out. And that's why we made paper copies for everybody tonight, so you can actually like handle, okay, imagine you're getting this in the mail. That's basically what we would plan to, I mean, obviously the memo I think was printed too, but that's not, or no, maybe not, maybe just Jack's copy as the memo.
Yeah.
But basically you can see the notice of public hearing, that is the actual Prop 218 notice. And you can see it's paginated, so that goes all the way to 404. So that's like the legal compliant document that is notifying the all of our ratepayers to the various increases across the different services. And again, this is water service, sewer service, and septic drainage. Then in addition, we had previously in prior years been sending the entire line item budget, but it was microscopic and really hard, and there's actually no legal requirement that we include that incredibly detailed budget. So instead what we have is this summary draft budget for fiscal year 26-27, and that's paginated, so it's 2 pages, page 1 of 2. And then the other thing we have is something that's kind of more visually appealing and user friendly, and our idea is that we print that in color and send it along, which is basically as people know, while we have a few single water customers, the majority of our 580 customers can be broken into 2 like Venn diagrams, people that are both water customers and sewer customers, and those are people that are like living downtown or Little Mesa, or you live up on the Big Mesa and you're a water customer and a septic drainage customer. So this is basically in total telling somebody, you think about, okay, am I a water customer that has sewer service? Then I would be looking at this and looking at the overall increases across the 2 services that I receive. And then if you're not a water sewer customer, flip the page, you're a water septic drainage customer, and then you can look at the overall cost impacts from this year versus next year. In addition to this, which is basically mailed to folks, as you see at the back end of the Prop 218 notice, is it says, you are receiving this Prop 218 notice. Sorry, this is on page 3 of 4. And it says availability of information, all materially, blah, 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 supporting all of this. So it says you've received the things I just described included in this mailing. So that was the summary draft budget, what I can expect to pay included in this mailing. And then we're referencing 3 materials that are basically the rationale for why we need rate increases. That would be the detailed draft budget, which is more like what we've provided in the mailing. And I'll show you guys that. I sent that to everybody. And it's on our website as part of these, agenda materials. And in addition, there is the Finance Committee recommendation proposed restructured of the meter water delivery rates. That's also, the going from tier 7, that overly complicated, to tier 5. And that's that's a detailed memo that's basically breaking down why we think it's a good idea to move from the 7 tiers to the 5 tiers. And then a discussion of the draft budget and proposed rate increases for fiscal year 26-27. That is a slide deck of the special meeting we had on Monday. That is very comprehensive, but obviously doesn't belong in the Prop 218 notice, but it is the foundation for the rationale for why we need to increase our rates for next year. So I would say, if you guys don't mind, The best thing to do to make sure that we get through what we need to get through is if you have suggested edits or anything like that, please make them now and we'll account for all of that. And then we can get into a broader discussion or, public can ask questions. But at least we can have,
Mine's really minor, but on page 3 of 4 of the 218. I wonder under what I can expect to pay.
Yeah.
If it should have 2 bullet points underneath, so it's clear, are you a sewer and water user, or are you just a sewer user?
Or just a water user. I mean, we don't think we have
a water user, sorry.
I'm a water customer with sewer service. So in the color, sorry, do you have a colored version of this? And just make sure I'm understanding what you're saying.
Yeah, right, it's 2
3 of
pages,
4.
so I just want to make sure that, I'm gonna be clear, it can say 1 of 2, and so that might make sure.
Yeah,
Just wanna
so
make
I
sure, like,
have,
if I'm wondering what user am I?
yeah. So I have
I
it
don't
down in a
print page
bullet. Yeah, here I say, if you are a septic drainage
Yeah.
customer, please see the reverse of this page. But what I could do instead, Kirsten, is like put something up like here. Like I'm a water septic drainage customer, turn the page or something like that, so
I was
that
like, or a big arrow
big
on the
arrow.
flyer, I was thinking a big arrow on the flyer, but.
Yeah,
was
so
just
I mean, I
wondering
make
in
the-
218, if it says, what can I expect to pay? Right, and item 5, bullet 4, under supporting materials, if it just were to say, you're either a water customer with sewer.
Yeah.
Or you're a water customer with septic drainage, so that they understand you're one or the other.
So you would say that after where it says included in this mailing?
Yeah, and then I would just like, okay, I would put in here under a bullet, you're either water with sewer or water with septic, but.
But everybody gets this sheet, right?
Yeah, everyone
Okay,
gets that sheet.
Yeah,
Um,
just saying that it goes in the part about when it says, what can I expect to pay? It's making a more of a direct reference to the distinctions between a. sewer
Yeah, I
customer.
would, can I recommend that we keep that just simply because this is that's just the title of this thing, this flyer. What can I expect to pay? But I think
the supporting material.
Yeah, exactly. And so I don't want to make it like excessively long in the Prop 218 notice.
Okay.
But I think that this, if I start, instead of putting bullets below there, I can have something at the very top that just says, BCPUD customer, and we can even put actual numbers here, but BCPUD customers.
Because it's more likely that somebody's gonna read this.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna read that
Yeah, yeah,
anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically at the top here, though, I could put something like that context. So it's not even like in the flyer
Well-
itself, but it's just like BCP, 8, whatever it is. I don't know exactly what the breakdown is, but it's like, well, actually, I guess I pretty easily figure that out. But
Okay. I just wanna make sure that they know to
50%.
turn the page. right?
Oh, that's
Yeah,
it. I was
yeah,
gonna up
exactly.
on that right corner, you could say, no sewer service, the other side, or something like that.
Yeah,
Or a big arrow at the bottom.
Yeah.
or both.
Or
Yeah,
both.
rather than putting it at the bottom where people may not get.
Yes,
that
exactly.
far,
Yeah,
It's
put
like
the
it's
top, make it
essentially
clear.
Just to know they should turn, look at the
Yeah.
other side,
Yeah.
yeah,
Cause you're
Okay.
either, you're one or the other.
yeah. Okay, so,
I have a question. Is it? To me, it sounds very odd to call it water enterprise, sewer enterprise, drainage enterprise. Enterprise to me has a very different meaning, although this may be a very specific meaning. I'm
Mhm.
sure that we chose the right word, but that to me is a little confusing. I think it could just say water, sewer, septic drainage. I don't think you need the word enterprise in there.
where is that? Sorry.
On page 2 of 2 on the one that's not colored, the draft, the summary of the draft budget. It's the second page.
Summary of draft budget. Yeah, it's
enterprise, right.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessary, and I think it's confusing. It sounds like we're running a business.
So at the very top where it starts out, it says enterprise slash charge. And then you have 3 different enterprises, water, sewer, and,
Yeah, I think
Septic.
that's,
yeah. So what if we call it
Department.
service? Oh,
yeah,
Service.
service, I would say.
water service, sewer service and septic.
Yeah,
service?
I think it's
Sort of-
honestly like more of a financial term. So when we talk about
Yeah.
the budget, we usually talk about our enterprises.
I understand that, but I don't think for the public it's particularly useful.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Well, it does sound more like like a business. although it is a business.
entrepreneurial thing.
Yeah. Too capitalistic, huh?
We're serving the public,
It's like,
not milking them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So what would be the substitute word?
I would
Service?
just say
Service.
water. Yeah, I would say service.
Oh,
And-
service,
and
yeah.
At the top, I would say service in charge, and then I would
Services.
just say underneath, just simply water and septic drain.
So not even put the service there.
I don't think it's necessary. I mean, everybody knows that the water's coming out of the tap.
Yeah,
Hopefully.
and it is a service, yeah.
Saturday night.
Unless a raccoon turns out.
Question here, could you just put at the top of one side, this side for sewer users and the other side on the top, it says this side of.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Kind of does,
Yeah.
no water's
Oh,
customers.
okay.
sewer,
Yeah,
every-
yeah.
Yeah. there you
Yeah.
go.
It's just basically embedded in this thing, so we just need to bring it up.
I think the
Yeah.
colors are really helpful and the bar graphs are great.
Yes.
This is very user
Yeah, it's
friendly.
very clear.
It's the most user friendly thing I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Seriously, I mean, I think it's great.
not just columns of water, of numbers. Too much water. Okay, so would you prefer then we approve the draft of 218 notice first and go on to the budget? Don't we have to approve the budget?
Before.
No, you don't approve the budget here, so
Okay.
sorry, just to make sure you guys are all clear. This is your opportunity to effectively approve the Prop 218 notice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That is scaffolded by an existing draft budget.
right.
We don't approve the budget
Until-
until there is a hearing
Right,
and the public has an opportunity to protest the budget.
yeah,
So ultimately, the actual approval of the budget and the 5-year CIP will happen after, hopefully after that hearing in June.
June.
And we have to have a 45-day notice period. So really this, what you guys are doing right now, and that's why I said the mailing is the most important thing.
right.
So you guys need to, again, just go through it. This is what I was hoping, this level of detail, so that you guys are happy with what's getting sent to our community. And then we will, that's effectively, I mean, I'm gonna put it in quotes, approving the draft budget
Right.
and approving the draft CIP. That's at the point that we'll extract that material from like just being embedded in this agenda into posting it as a draft budget and draft 5-year CIP on our website. That is, again, that's what's referenced in the Prop 218. Hey, go look at the detailed budget if you're wondering why we need to raise these rates as we've told you here in this notice.
Okay,
So that's basically it. So again, I'm sure more
Got it.
people, Kevin, have more detailed requests for edits.
I
Okay.
have one, I have two.
go ahead.
Okay.
We knew that.
Kevin, three places.
Page one, this is the top,
Mhm.
the very first sentence, notice is hereby given. It says we will conduct a public hearing to consider the proposed increases. I would add, we'll conduct a public hearing during a regular meeting of the board of directors, because this isn't a standalone hearing just for this issue. This is part of the meeting, is that right?
Yeah, it has to be. Mhm.
So I would just maybe add that in so that
So public hearing during,
during a regular meeting of the board of directors.
Yeah, that's.
Sound all right to you guys?
provide clarity.
Yeah.
Sounds okay.
Mhm.
Okay,
You got another one?
I do.
and just to let you know, we prefer removal of language than addition,
Well-
because we have these 4 pages. that
We already-
It's
perfectly-
very tight. Well,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to make
Yeah.
it smaller.
Okay, during regular meeting of the board of directors, okay?
My last, maybe you can remove this, is on the summary of the draft budget, page 2.
Summary of the draft budget. Oh, nothing else on the Prop 218.
No, nothing else for the Prop 218.
Wow,
yeah.
okay.
You're welcome. So after, almost at the very end, you've got this table, typical annual bill impact, and then below that, there's a footnote.
Mhm.
It says, the second sentence says, customers using less than 1,000 cubic feet per quarter will see a lowered meter charge under the proposed 5-tier structure than under the current 7-tier structure.
Oh,
I think that's
yeah.
actually not true.
No, that's wrong. Thank you.
God, he's good.
Customers using less than, and I removed that. That was somewhere else that I'd already removed, but I didn't catch this one. Okay.
There
I
you
thought
go.
we'll be
Take that
seeing
out.
a lower
All right.
metered.
So there's a reduction in language.
There you go. But it's
Yeah, I mean, one thing just to let you guys know that Belle and I were debating is this is actually quite redundant. And if you look at the name of this, so maybe just getting your opinion, but basically this is the summary of the draft budget, which was really just this first page. So the other stuff, like especially this typical annual bill, that's really redundant with that flyer that's
Yeah.
colorful. And it's like, do we really need this here? It's almost less informative, potentially could confuse people. And then the thing that's above really is included in the Prop 218 notice itself, where we get into the different amounts, you know? So one thing I thought of is just striking these two tables on the back side of this draft budget. So would be curious to hear what you guys think.
well.
I don't know. I mean,
It's
I think
presented
it reads
differently.
pretty clearly. The
Okay.
Me
typical
too.
annual
Yeah,
bill.
leave it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like a quick side. I like
And
that
it's all-
side.
It's numbers which don't actually appear in the notice of public hearing, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
But the typical bill, annual bill impact, maybe we could remove, since I
Yeah.
agree that the what can I
I don't
pay
know.
is
Like
very
that.
clear.
I
Yeah.
like that because I like seeing the annual increase immediately right there, where on the flyer, you have to
Yeah.
find the numbers here,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
Whereas for me, that's a
right
quick,
there.
like,
It's
Yeah.
real
yeah,
easy
don't make me
reading,
get
yeah.
my calculator out. I
Okay.
like
Yeah.
that.
That's fine. I'll just remove that customers using less than because that's really spelled out in the flyer.
Yeah. All right, can we get a motion then to approve are we ready then to approve the 218 notice?
So we're
Yeah.
just,
Well,
are we doing it all at once, or just the 218 first, and then are
No.
we gonna talk about the CIP and the
No, we're
the budget,
not-
or is it all at once?
We're not gonna vote on the CIP or the budget yet.
Well, I guess the question, I guess what I would suggest is, let's vote on this all as one thing. If you have comments that you want see because what like in practical terms, what's going to happen, right? We'll take your guys' revisions, we'll revise the materials, and then all of those supplemental materials are going to go up on the board. Some of them are basically meetings and memos that already occurred. I don't think we're looking to modify those. They're really more letting the public know, hey, this is how we came to this point.
Yeah.
The budget and the 5-year CIP, while they're referenced in, hey, that's where we got to this point, those will be sitting as standalone. So if you have particular revisions you want to see there, I think it's appropriate to bring those out now. And then when you guys approve the Prop 218 mailing, then basically your vote on that will effectively be, okay, we're allowing you to, or we're directing you to mail this out, plus post all of the referenced materials.
Okay.
So you have.
We're about to have a motion and to approve what are essentially these 4 sheets of paper. Is that
Yes,
right?
exactly, but
As
I want to
drafted
give
with
people an opportunity if there's something they want to point out on the file, a correction or something
Right.
before those things get posted on the website. I mean, specifically, I'm not talking about the meeting that, like I said, that happened or the memo. I think, if we have to amend them to correct something, we should do that as like an amended material, What I would suggest is if you have changes to the detailed budget or the 5-year CIP, that will be standalone supplemental materials that are going to sit on the website.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody?
I'm not hearing any.
My questions are more about the 5 tiers, and because I don't think we had a lot of time to talk about that at our meeting on Monday, so
Yeah.
more, after having digested a little bit, I just
Yeah,
want to talk about it. I don't know if this is the right place to do that.
No, this is definitely the right place to do it because the Prop 218 implies that you would be adopting the 5-tier system. And so this is your opportunity to ask questions. As I said, I've shared those materials with you guys, and we've discussed them at a special meeting. But that was more for, hey, this is what we would like to do. This is the opportunity for you guys to question or modify or whatever.
Okay. Well then I will just jump in.
Jump in.
I'm a proponent of the 5-tier system. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think about the way I've been thinking about water usage is in line with that. So I'm really happy to see the evolution. So I'm happy with it. I think my concern or worry is that who will be impacted most. So, you know, we have some heavy water users, but a lot of those are commercial establishments in town. So I'm worried that this might adversely impact the restaurants. You know, the laundromat seems to have a kind of carve out, which I don't fully understand either, but I just feel like it's very hard to run a business in this town already, so I don't want them to be impacted too much. So I'm worried about that. So I just want to put that out there because I haven't done, I don't see the data of, you know, like the names are redacted, so I don't know who the heavy users are. So yeah, just wanted to talk about that. I don't know if that came up in your finance committee discussion.
It did come in our finance committee discussion. I shared, because that's more sensitive, I shared it basically as non-redacted commercial users. So I mean, the finance committee saw the impacts and they were not, you know, I mean, there's a couple of things I would say. Yes, we do have commercial users that are heavy users. At the same time, I think that you want to incentivize commercial users to also be conserve water where they can. I was thinking, I mean, again, this is not something that comes up in the Prop 218, but you could imagine one of the things you could do is basically give, and again, we don't have a lot of this, but I would just say what other districts do when they're not using their tax money to like repair bike paths and stuff like that, is they have a lot more of that tax base to use for, hey, not everybody, first of all, they can have care like programs, so where you piggyback on PG&E's program and you provide subsidies effectively to people that are, you know, financially constrained. So that's one thing. Another thing is like you could incentivize the commercial customers to change out to more water efficient things where you basically are providing rebates and stuff like that. And so that, you know, going to this higher tier is kind of, you feel more comfortable with it because at the same time you're like, we're giving you $1,000 to, you know, change out your whatever non-conserved dishwashers or whatever. So I would, yeah, that's basically what I have to say about that. So I don't think that adopting this would prevent us from looking into those kinds of opportunities. I mean, obviously we haven't budgeted that in for this year. But I don't think, you know, there's sadly, fortunately, whatever, few commercial customers. So there's the potential that we could do something. I guess the other thing I would say is that a lot of districts actually have surplus charges on commercial versus residential. So in some way, I mean, again, our tier structure is really, even as it exists right now, right, is incentivizing conservation. Sometimes the nature of your business means there's only so much you can do. My sense is that some of the higher water users could do a lot more, and to incentivize them through a financial means might actually mean that, you know, you get to a point where they're like, oh, we really need to, you know, conserve water for our own finances. But anyway, so yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Any other?
No,
I think
that all
the
makes-
right answer.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, sort of. Yeah. I guess we'll kind of wait and see, and yeah, see what the actual effects are. And I agree, like trying to change behavior is part of this, and I agree with that. I'm just sensitive to people trying to run a business here. That's all.
Yeah.
So we'll.
It's hard to
Okay.
compare also the commercial with the residential, you know. If
Yeah.
I have to pay $15 more a month on a monthly basis for my water for my household is one thing. But if my business is paying another $25 a month more for water, it's serving the whole customer within a context of a money-making operation. So
Mhm.
it's a little hard to compare the apples and oranges, I think.
So are you saying you think that commercial users should be charged at a higher rate, or there should be a
Yeah.
kind of surcharge?
I think there's a justification. We're not calling it a surcharge, but basically that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a surcharge because you're a high water user, because you're a commercial business
Yeah.
and you're making money off of using the water.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm not making money off of using my kitchen sink.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think you really.
I do think
Hard
that
to-
this does bring up an important point that had been brought to my attention, which is the laundromat. I just want to point out that the finance committee talked about that, was a little curious around like that. So basically the laundromat has, the board at some point in time approved a exception to the tiering on the laundromat. So they are charged at tier one. Obviously, as you guys know, like tier ones are gonna be, are charged at a higher rate, even with this restructuring, right? But the laundromat, like, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but effectively the laundromat is serving folks in town who don't have a washing machine and dryer. Usually that means that they tend to not have as much money, and so they're having to go pay money to, per load down at the laundromat. If we made the laundromat pay, the tiered rates associated with that usage, they would have to pass that cost on to folks. So while it's a business, the nature of that business is different than going to frequent a restaurant, right? You're having to
So it's a public service.
yeah,
business,
it's
but
yes.
it is a privately
I
owned
think that I
business.
was on the board when that was done too, and it was done
Yeah.
for the exact reason that you're saying, because it was considered to be a public benefit
Mhm.
for the reasons that you're stating.
But it's
Yeah.
privately owned.
The only
Private
it's
business,
privately
but
owned,
it's-
and I guess the thing I wanted to point out here is that people have I've heard anecdotally that the price for loads is really expensive. And so, I mean, not that we'd want to dive into that now, but I think that the nature and sort of like the idea of this is that those, when you're not charging more for water use, those savings are being passed on to the customers. And so it does require, I mean, not that you're like telling folks to open their books and look at the laundromat, but I think there is some incentive for the board to ensure that the decision that was made at that point in time is enabling, affordable washing services in town.
Yeah.
It's just something that I wanted to point out because it's something that, obviously came up was as I was diving into this data.
I think it occurred when the laundromat used to be where Flower Fraser's
Yeah,
real estate office was, right?
Yeah.
Before she moved in there. And when it was moving around to where it is now, that issue about limitations on the meter and whatever came up.
oh, okay.
And I believe that's when the board made that decision to put a cap on how much, for the very reason that you're stating, that it served a lot of people in the community, especially low income people who otherwise just didn't have a washing machine and couldn't afford to wash their clothes in town.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I just think it requires some oversight to make sure that, I mean,
Yeah.
and again, I don't know obviously how much it costs to run a,
don't know.
Maybe we could put it on as an agenda item to look into that agreement or, that decision that was made by the board and just revisit it,
Yeah.
in a future
Yeah.
date, just to check in about that.
Sure.
Especially if, people are grumbling about the price, then we should.
Are they? I mean,
that's what I've heard.
Anecdotally, yeah.
okay, well then,
I think
maybe.
it's worth looking
It
at.
used to be more expensive than washing clothes pretty much anywhere else, because I used that laundromat for years,
Yeah,
but I don't know, I haven't.
yeah, exactly. I mean, my parents, it was like the best day in the world when they got a washing machine and I spent a lot of time down there and I mean, it's expensive, like anywhere you do laundry.
Yeah.
It's always
The
expensive,
upkeep's
but I
super
think,
high on it.
but looking into it a little bit, I think just, it,
Could just compare what they charge up in Olema, because that's where
Yeah.
people were going.
That's
Yes.
expensive too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe the same charge. And
Yeah, I
give you
think
an idea that's what it costs to go to a laundromat.
Yeah,
So,
could be.
Mhm.
well, all right, let's continue along. I'm trying to find out if we've reached a.
I just had a question.
Okay.
So, the use then goes to the laundromat, wouldn't that be water that each of the water users would be adding to their own home if they had a washing?
That was the point. It's really not any more water being used. It's just that they're using it at the laundromat rather than their own home.
Mm-hmm.
The same amount of water because you're doing a little wash.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it had nothing to do with increased water usage in terms of people,
Mhm.
just the rates that are being charged.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to bring us to getting a vote now on this Prop
Yeah.
218 notice.
Yeah, so that is, I mean, I guess because I do feel like I was super hand wavy to Kevin's question about impact on commercial customers. Obviously, they'll be paying more under this system, just as with other folks. And the only thing I can say of like real substance is basically the finance committee itself had similar concerns and looked at the data and weren't, they didn't feel the need to carve out something for commercial users based on that. So
Okay.
All right.
Do you feel compelled at all to reach out specifically to those individual users, high tier users that,
yeah, I mean, I
you
think
can come up
obviously
for it.
beyond the Prop 218
Yeah.
notice, what we
Yeah.
could do is send an additional so what I mean, just to let you know a bit about what that data looked like. So I filtered all commercial users and then we looked at the highest anybody who was over median use, and that was basically the high commercial users. And so what I could do is based on that data and looking at the new rates, obviously they'll get the Prop 218, but it could be heads up,
Yeah.
pay attention. If you use water the same way that you do currently and aren't trying at some level to conserve it, your new bill will be this, because as you can see, it gets they can see that obviously in the Prop 218 and they could do the math and stuff like that, but whether they're even paying attention to the Prop 218 notice or anything, just essentially a courtesy to those high commercial users to let them know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm even thinking, even if it has passed, being able to reach out to them and say, we recognize you are a high user.
Oh yeah, that's what
high
I'm
user
envisioning.
thing.
I don't
Yeah.
think it would be prior to the approval.
Yeah.
Like I think the Prop 218 serves the purpose of,
Yeah.
they pay attention to that.
Yeah.
I think it's more like
how can
the
we
board
partner with you?
approved this. Please note that, going forward, if you continue to use water the way you are using it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be more. Yeah.
Yeah, because I also feel that we are down on our businesses at the moment, right? We've lost some restaurants, we've lost some public services, and I would also like somehow to encourage those to come back, right? And then that this would not be something that would be a deterrent to encourage.
Mm-hmm.
But that was my person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, we can also look at these other things of if you guys want to set aside money that would be rebate driven.
Mhm. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and I mean that is common things that are done at districts that basically prioritize using their tax base
Mhm.
where there's more flexibility in different ways.
Yeah, I think I'd be interested to hear more about that.
Okay, are we ready to do a vote on?
Almost. I have one more comment, and Jenny also has her hand up.
Just one quick one about those people in the units that are gonna be built on Wharf. They aren't gonna be able to have washing machines, so that will be a whole bunch of people who will now be using the laundromat. So that laundromat is gonna be increasing their water use by quite a bit, I would
Why
think.
can't they have washer dryers in their units?
I think that's what I heard at one of, because of the water use. And they have a meter that can only handle a certain amount of water. So they don't want to have their residents, they're using the water. That's my.
Yeah, the latest I'd heard about that was that, I mean, obviously they have a limited water
Right.
use permit, which
Yeah.
is whatever it is. And I think that they were
Very
looking
unclear.
to provide washing services in part because the laundromat is so expensive. And I think that they're even looking to try to institute services. This is again just anecdotally what I've heard, that even at the Gibson House they're looking to institute washer services because of how expensive the laundromat is. And personally, I mean, I don't think that we should get into whether they have washing machines or not. It's
No.
really about that limit, if they can maintain under the limit. And again, we're not, we look at them collectively under that single meter. It's for the BCLT or whoever is managing the property to individually determine, you know, that people are like, again, we only care about the collective and that it's under their limit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and we,
So Kevin had some more.
There are very
questions?
low.
excuse me, is
I'm
this,
just,
are you
this is
on?
Marianne.
Yeah,
Yeah. I was just saying that there are very low water use washing machines these days. So
Yeah.
it doesn't take the 60 gallons that it used to take.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think also a lot of the thinking is that the people who are gonna be living in those new units are most likely all gonna be, or almost all people who are already living here. So they're washing their clothes somewhere or else. So they may be moving where they live, but it's the same folks still washing the same pair of pants. So,
Yeah.
all right, Kevin, did you have one more thing?
One more, yes, about the methodology for coming up with the tiers.
Yeah.
You looked at 2 years, 8 quarters, I think, which I'm sure was an enormous amount of work, but it doesn't include any drought years. So, you know, I was wondering how that might affect our income, our revenue. I don't know. I'm not expecting an answer right now, but it just occurred to me when I was thinking about this, you know, how we'll be affected as an organization in a drought year with these rates.
Yeah, I mean, it will be basically the same thing as what we currently have, where everything goes out the window as soon as there's a drought, right? Even the limited water use permits, all of that basically is not relevant because we effectively have, you know, I mean, assuming it was a really bad drought year and you had to institute rationing or whatever, none of this really is relevant in terms of the 2,700 cubic feet limit and all of that. So a lot of this is, this is all things are normal. And obviously, I don't know. I mean, the only thing that happens in drought is you're pushed into those lower tiers as people conserve more water.
Yeah.
So that means, you know, fortunately for us, that means it's easier to manage our water, right? Because people behave in a responsible manner and use less water. But obviously that means less revenue. The way in which I would say that is more relevant is basically, as you know, that, and I would encourage members of the public to read the memo that goes through all of this, because it goes beyond what is the 5 tier versus 7 tier. It goes into a strong argument that we do not collect enough money from our meter usage versus the annual service charge. That's really briefly the main argument there is one of conservation. If your revenue is not tied to water use in a meaningful way relative to the annual service charge, then it's not really a signal for folks to really conserve, which, you know, obviously those financial signals can be incredibly powerful modifiers of behavior. So so anyways, what I was going to say is what it does, where we're recognizing that, okay, it's important for us to have a little more balance and collect more money from actual water use as opposed to the annual service charge. Obviously, if you're in a period of drought and people really start to conserve in a way that you would obviously are promoting, it means a shrinking of your revenue.
Yeah.
And obviously the more you put in that metered revenue basket, it can be scary. But at the same time, that's exactly the behavior that you want to institute in drought, where you really do have to have people conserve water. So it's scary from a budgetary standpoint, but I think it is still the right approach.
Yeah. And the board had addressed that some years ago, and we had a pretty serious drought and thought we were, in bad shape, and came to that same, it's an irony, but we were successful and it cost us money.
Yeah. And I mean, that also gets into, the memo also goes into, well, how do we actually budget for these new metered rates?
Yeah.
And one of the things that it does is it's pretty conservative, because if the new tiered system is effectual in modifying behavior, then people will conserve and you will get less revenue.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the reason we were very conservative, because obviously we're hoping that this is a conservation signal.
I think it's a sort of utility. Many utilities go through this, right? PG&E is always telling us to conserve energy, but then that means they're not making as much money. So how do you, run a business or make a profit if you're telling your users not to use as much of the product you're selling? So it's tricky.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up the memo, because I wanted to say I really appreciate the memos. I think there's a lot of work that goes into doing that, and I want to just recognize, thank you. They're really concise, very informative, and
It's nice to start with the memo and really get the lay of the land before digging in. So
Yep.
I agree 100%.
Okay, I'm gonna try to circle around to our agenda and see if we can get a motion to approve the 218 notice.
One more quick question.
Oh.
Okay, just you.
I move that we kick
You
it.
you vote me out. Sorry, I got 2 more years. So you give a detailed. You give a detailed explanation of why the rates are going up for water and septic, but nothing for sewer. I'm just wondering if you thought about adding in a couple lines about that, or it's just sort of it is what it is.
I think the water, I really added it because things have modified because of the 5-tier. So that's really where it was. There's an introduction that says we're running operational deficits across all systems or enterprises. I don't know what the word is, but we might want to make sure that word is not enterprise.
Services.
Search for enterprises.
Thank you.
It says service actually.
Okay,
that's I'm fine
so
with that.
that's fine. And then the reason that the septic drainage, obviously that's going up quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so it really needs to be spelled out.
Yeah.
And so the 3, when you look at the 3 things, basically I felt like the intro served all of them.
Yeah.
It warranted further explanation of the 5 versus 7 tier on the water. And then the septic drainage had more context about why we're actually going up back to original levels.
Yeah. More about
Okay.
That's
What
it.
do you say, Kevin? You ready?
I think so.
Kevin's gonna make a motion to approve.
Can't silence me, Jack.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to get you to make a motion to approve the 218 notice. Thank you. You got it. Are you ready? Are you ready?
So George, just to clarify, you want one motion to approve everything in this agenda item?
Sure.
No, not everything in the agenda item.
Just for 218.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're not approving the budget. We're not approving the CIP.
Yeah, you're not approving those, but you can, if you put the term draft in front of there, then you can say you're approving that. But what you could do is, here, just for clarity's sake, approve the Prop 218 notice as amended with all of the comments you guys have made. And then direct us to mail that notice and post the supporting materials on our website.
Okay.
Did you like that motion?
I did, yeah. I
Would
agree
you
with that.
adopt it as the motion that you're making?
I would, yeah.
Okay.
Can I get someone to second that? Please.
Sure, I'll second that.
You will. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Did you say aye?
I
Okay.
did.
Yeah.
And I raised my hand. I gave a
All right.
visual and.
That takes care of the whole agenda item then.
Yep, we're done.
We're all the way up to number 8.
Can I have a hazelnut?
Yes.
Um, board approval of draft audited financial report of the BPUD for fiscal ending June 30th, 25.
Yep.
O'Connor and Company. So you need a formal motion to approve this, is that right?
Yeah, I wrote that in the memo, what the action is. Helpful to just look at that here, just to make sure. Receive, review, and approve the audited financial statements.
Right. So George, I assume that you have already.
Yes, this is a back and forth. It's been, we started this audit a long time ago. It's actually delayed, like last year we'd approved it in March. You guys approved it in March, now April. So definitely want us to get this over and done with. And I think, just to let the public know, our audit was clean. So nothing huge red flags in it.
Good. Okay, so from your perspective, you're accepting of the report. Okay.
Yes.
Can I get a motion then to approve the audited financial report for ending June 30th, 25?
I move that we receive and approve the audited financials.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Kevin, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. On to number 9.
Oh, just one note, huge thanks to Belle. There's a lot of paper pushing for the audit and really
Hey, Belle.
Hey, Belle.
Love you, Belle.
Moving on to item 9, BPUD Resolution 2026-3, proposing an election be held in its jurisdiction on November 3rd of 26. Request the Board of Suits to consolidate with any other election conducted on that date and requesting election services by the county. All right, so this is our every other year resolution for an election.
Yes.
Is there any comments? And if not, going to get a motion to approve resolution 2026-3.
I so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I had a quick question. The bottom says that. So is this like the first reading, and then we have to do it again? Because it says at the bottom that it's approved in June 2026 at the bottom of the draft resolution.
No.
Or should that be today, April 15th?
Interesting.
Say that.
On the 17th of June.
I can't remember. I think that this is just a resolution to basically, call and add to the elections. So this would be approved at this one.
Yeah.
That was probably a misprint.
Today's date.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
today's date, not 17th of June.
Expecting us to. do
Okay,
this
so
in
we need to then we are hereby
Amend it.
amending that resolution to say on this 15th day of April.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so with that change, did we just vote on this already?
No.
No.
Okay, gotta get a motion?
Yes, you got a motion.
Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
June.
Okay. Item 10, discussion and the first reading of an amendment to ordinance 38, rules and regulations regarding transfer of water meters.
Yes.
Got a serious agenda tonight.
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, you guys looked at this last meeting, so this is not your first time seeing it, and this
Although
is
I
our.
wasn't here.
Okay, well, this is or maybe it was 2 meetings ago, was it?
And I wasn't here 2 meetings ago.
Okay, all right, sorry.
I'm
here too, just
I'm
the first
tonight.
It was the last meeting. It was the last meeting.
It was last meeting, okay.
Yeah.
So, I just to set the stage here. Last meeting, I introduced this pretty much as it stands exactly and reads here. And I told you I'd bring it back to this meeting for a first reading. This is because ordinances have to go through this more laborious process. The other thing I introduced at the last meeting was a mega ordinance. So that was a mega, meter use ordinance. The idea was, hey, let's revise our limited water use resolution this resolution, this ordinance 38. And there's like even a couple more, and just clean up all of that stuff. So what I was suggesting though is that in the interim, it makes sense to adopt these revisions here, because it will allow us to basically enact some flaws that we've identified. I mean, I guess it's not really flaws, it's basically a philosophical approach of what your role as a board is. Basically to point out that the highlights here are additional language that gives the board more flexibility as it relates to meter transfers. So as ordinance 38 exists, it's extremely restrictive in a couple of ways. The first way is that it says that when a person moves their meter, they have to remove all of the plumbing associated with that the property that's effectively the donator of the meter. The reason that I think that, and the mega ordinance tries to get into, okay, let's really move ourselves out of the land use area where we really don't have jurisdiction. It's very difficult for us to manage all of that. And what we really manage is water use. When you move you transfer your meter, you can't have water there anymore. And we are capable of ensuring that somebody is no longer using water, whether or not they've demolished a building. And so that's basically what this approach says, is that it gives you guys discretion to say, yeah, we recognize that in certain instances, we may require you to demolish the building, remove all plumbing, all of this restrictive language. But in certain cases, you guys can use your discretion to say, it's not in our interest to enforce either the property owner or our administrative or staff to go out and enforce somebody to demolish the building and remove plumbing, etc. The other thing that this ordinance or this repeal and replace of ordinance 38 gives you guys more flexibility on is that the original ordinance also said, okay, and when you take that meter that you just removed from that property, when you go and associate it with a new property and you develop that property, you need to make sure you're putting in water efficient appliances, etc. That's fine, except often what happens is somebody moves their meter into effectively floating status, as we know, right? Which means it's not actually associated with the property. And as we know, folks in town, there's a history of people effectively selling their water meters to other people. And so if somebody removes their meter from, say, a property that's falling into the cliff, moves that into, floating status, and then sells the meter, they have no ability to control how somebody is going to develop with that meter. So, and also there's no reason for us to do that, because basically at the point that somebody develops, like that's the point at which we can interact with them. So we don't need to tie it to, the transfer of the meter off of the existing property. So again, you can still do all of that. These revisions just allow the board discretion to say, in this case, it's not in our interest to enforce you to comply with all of this water efficiency language, because you're not the one you're not undertaking the development.
Well, and I think that for me, the underlying issue is that it's not our job to control the water on the other side of the meter. We can give them an LWAP, but we can't tell them what kind of appliances to put in.
Yes,
that they should make sensible choices. We would hope to encourage them, but that's not within our purview to require that.
But could we require the LWAP?
Yeah. So again, this is a little bit why I'm like, we're polishing something that doesn't deserve to be polished, because I really would, encourage us, we just don't have time to do it right now, is like have a workshop where we sit down with that mega ordinance
Okay.
and really revise that thing because it gets into exactly that,
Yeah.
Grace, because it has like, whereas we are not the environmental health and safety. We don't have the authority to even go in to make sure that people, that people have demolished their buildings. Like, we're not building the building department, right? Like, it's basically a lot of that language is overstepping our authority. And from my standpoint, for not really a good reason, because we can just institute limits and monitor usage, and ensure that properties that aren't supposed to be served with water aren't being served with water, right? Like, that's the way, like, no, in other districts, like water utilities just turn off water. They don't make people destroy their building to ensure that the utility is no longer providing water. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's kind of, again, the mega ordinance gets into trying to clean up all of that and set the rationale for why it's not appropriate for us to do all of these things that we've done previously. And it also cleans, it tries to, like, because if you try to dive into like the limited water use permit, what you end up doing is this, diving back in history. Oh, this resolution got amended by this resolution, got amended by that resolution. So it's trying to clean up all of that. Again, for right now, the recommendations for ordinance, the repeal and replace for ordinance 38. Ultimately, I would say we would repeal and replace this ordinance that you'd be adopting tonight when you guys review the mega ordinance, hopefully sometimes next year. But it already gets
So you're
that.
not asking us to vote on this?
No, I am asking you to.
Okay.
This is the first reading, so you're not voting tonight,
Okay.
except for if you want, if you want to amend anything in here. So you could amend it and approve those amendments, and that would be part of the first reading. And then again, that then would come forward unamended in the next meeting for you guys to approve. And then there's this additional 30 days before it takes effect with an ordinance.
All right, I had a comment on
Okay.
language that might be conflicting. If you look at, they're not numbered pages, but it would be section 3 sub E, standards for approving a water meter transfer, and drop down to 3I, recorded covenant limiting water use.
Yeah, 3I.
Got it?
Yes.
Prior to final approval of a water meter transfer, the applicant will prepare, execute, and record with the Marin County Recorder's Office a covenant running with the land that limits water use on the property to quantity and on the terms set forth in the limited water use permit, which therefore more than implies, but states that there is a limited water use permit that is going to be part of transferring a meter. But then if you turn the page,
that which property is that? Is that the property that the meter is transferred from or to?
Two.
That's the receiving property, right?
as I understand.
Yeah, and sorry, and just to make clear, the only just as a technical point, all of this language is in the original ordinance 38. We did, however, where reference to unlimited water use permit, we changed that to limited,
Right.
Because that's the language. So we did nominal modifications to the language to just have it be understood by today's community.
Right. Okay. But then you turn over to your new language.
Yeah.
Just before the end, on the last page, number 4, no increase in water demand.
Yeah.
And then the second sentence is, if necessary to ensure no increase in water demand, the board may require issuance of a limited water use permit under resolution 173. So that language seems to state that there is no necessarily a limited water use permit. It's just, it may happen, but then on the prior language seems to state that there is a limited water use permit that goes with every merger transfer.
Yeah.
You see it?
So sorry, point to the language again. Sorry, Jack.
Okay.
Well, and isn't there also, E
So if you go. if you-
3I as well.
The little 3 I's on the previous one, recorded covenant.
Yeah, I
you
see
make
that.
a covenant with the county.
Mhm.
It makes reference that the limits on the water use that you're gonna promise to the county in a covenant that you're gonna record against the property
Mhm.
is on the terms set forth in the limited water use permit.
Mhm.
But then under number 3 on the last page,
Mhm.
it states that if necessary to ensure no increase, and it doesn't say how that happens, the board may require issuance of a limited water use permit. So that makes it sound like it's discretionary about whether a limited water use permit is going to be imposed on this meter or not, whereas the prior language pretty clearly states that there is a limited water use permit under terms that are the same as the covenant you're recording in the county recorder's office. Are you following that?
Yes, I think, okay, so I'm not sure if this makes sense, but basically merger exception to former site remediation, like in the introduction of it.
Yeah,
It's saying notwithstanding subsection 2, when water meter transfer request is associated with county approved parcel merger recorded pursuant to the subdivision map, the board of directors may waive the plumbing removal, structural removal, the septic decommissioning requirements for the parcels being consolidated, provided all the following conditions are met.
right.
So, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out water efficient
It's still good.
low.
You
Yeah.
have that discretionary language. I mean, I don't mind the discretionary. I personally think that the merger is a good time for us to put on a limited water use permit.
Yeah.
So I would take out the language under number 3 that says, if necessary to ensure no increase, the board may require issuance. I would just say that in order to ensure no increase in water demand, the board will
Okay.
require issuance of a limited water use permit.
Okay.
And just make it a mandatory part of the merger process.
Mhm.
Because
If
that
that's-
refers back to.
And then it makes it consistent with the other one
Yeah.
because these people are also having to give a covenant to the county and record it. That's going to be against their title to the land.
Right.
Mhm.
That this is the amount of water that's ever going to be on this property,
Yeah, I
whether I
mean,
own it or
to
not.
be clear, that's one of the things I tried to clean up in the mega ordinance because it's kind of silly. What I think makes more sense, because people move these meters around,
Yeah.
is that you don't tie it to what you tie it to is the meter.
Yes,
And we
not the property. Yes.
have a database where we keep track of that. We don't really, I mean, that's my personal opinion, is like, I'm agnostic about whether you want to use your meter on 5, like acres of land or on a little tiny postage stamp. Where we regulate that water use is through the limit. It's tied to the meter. We have an ID for that meter. That meter can be transferred around, and the mega ordinance kind of defines the rules just like this for that transfer, but it acknowledges a bunch of things that we know actually happen in the community, which is like floating meter status, selling of meters. It like gets into, hey, that's what people are actually doing. And then again, its emphasis is we track meters. We don't require people to have covenants and, go through all of that, because the way that they get the limit is tied to the meter itself.
Yep.
Yeah. If
So
the
it's
meter is, let's say a property has 2 meters and they haven't used one in 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And they sell it.
Mhm.
How are you establishing what the water use is under an LWAP if it's going to an undeveloped lot now that somebody's developed? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this gets into basically a lot of that, because you don't even have to play that exercise with somebody having 2 meters on one piece of property. You can play that same game with just somebody's selling a meter that they never used before.
Right. Okay.
Right. And basically the way that we would treat that is to give the 2,700,
Average.
even though we know that it was effectively at 0, right?
Yeah.
That's essentially what the limited water use permit says. We're not going to make anybody use 0, for whatever reason that meter was at 0. To be clear, there's like some weird examples of exactly what you're talking about, where like when the moratorium is passed, we basically have a database and we're tracking all of these meters. And, as an example, the school apparently had 2 meters at one point. And then, but one of them basically isn't operable because they like combined their plumbing for, probably cost savings or something like that. And then that other one just basically sat there. It's not had its annual service charges paid or anything like that, right? So there's all that kind of complexity. But one of the things that I was told is that, they could never go and sell that meter because of Ordinance 38 says they would have to destroy their buildings.
Yeah.
And remove all of their plumbing. Anyways, so it's like not to completely derail us in these weird anomalous things, but you can see that there's like language that is in these ordinances that ends up like with weird fallouts that don't make all that much sense, where really, we should be concerned with aggregate use. We define that at a certain point in time. That's basically 2,700, which is basically median use or average use plus 50%. That's what I would encourage us to be focused on, and not so much like, because it's also a nightmare. Like when we've dealt with one of these things recently, is like we have to go back to the property and ensure that they have destroyed their built. Like it's just really
That
getting
probably
out.
just happened most
Yes.
recently
Mhm.
with I don't want to call them out, but
It did just happen.
Yes, it's not in any way to disparage the customer. It was
Yeah,
just a really difficult to implement
And
this
that's
policy.
historically what the board has done too. I mean, we've run into situations periodically where people had weekend houses that they hardly ever used, and then they sold it to a family that was gonna live there full time. And there was no way you're gonna stick them with the average use that historically had been on that meter, so we just applied the average household use,
Yeah.
the 2,700, as a fair number to give to those people.
Yeah.
Because it was
Yeah, yeah.
ridiculous not to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
but
been
I
a
think
board-
the red tape to be required to remove the property.
That's a
that you're
separate.
transferring, but I think that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only
All
thing,
right.
Yeah, so again, all of that language still sits in here. I'm not asking us to get rid of all of that because again, I think it's just not worth the time to modify ordinance 38 to be exactly what we want it to be, because I think it's better served through this more deliberative process that looks at all of these related resolutions and
So
ordinances.
is the board okay with my suggestion then to make it from discretionary to mandatory on that lines?
Yes.
Instead of may require, shall require?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, shall.
I mean, even if you refer back to as per section
Well,
blah blah D triple
yeah.
I.
Yeah, it just makes
It makes it consistent. I think that didn't we just actually pass 26-2 tonight? So the number on this might need to be 2026-3.
Oh, good point.
No, it's an ordinance. I saw that
Oh,
too.
yeah.
It threw me, yeah.
Okay, that's confusing.
It's,
Yeah.
I see that's confusing.
Maybe I'm just easily confused. That's also possible.
Yeah. No, I was confused too. And then I was like, oh, wait, no.
We might want to consider that numbering.
Different for the
Okay.
ordinances and the
Okay.
resolutions.
Yeah.
All right, are we ready? So is that the conclusion then of the reading for the first reading of the amendment to ordinance 38? We're
Yeah.
concluded that, right?
Yeah, we just put that shall, that was the only
Yeah.
modification.
Apparently. Okay. We're getting to the good part, right, Georgia? Here we go.
Yes.
Okay. Nothing under item 11. And now we have discussion items. Item 12, managers update.
All right. Have we moved this to the back of the meeting?
Yes,
For
you
reason
did.
I thought just for tonight. I
No.
thought we.
No.
She did a few meetings ago.
Okay, I had suggested that everybody has to.
I think she.
Slog
Listen.
through it.
It made everybody listen.
I think
Yeah.
It's good.
It's a reminder of why we're here.
Yeah.
The purpose
Uh-huh.
is.
I just feel badly.
I don't think.
Well,
we
I
should
would have
feel
felt bad to
badly.
keep the sheriff waiting for 4 hours.
Yeah, right.
A little much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
I mean,
what
it
do you think,
is-
Sergeant? Shall or may?
Okay.
Okay, take it away.
Well, he had 2 hours.
So
I was gonna say, I'm sure people in town have waited for the sheriff to show up at some point, but I'm not gonna go there.
All right.
so just looking at our water supply memo, basically production in the last 3 months. And looking at March specifically here, which is our new data point, we have 134 gallons per day per connection. This is up from February, which was at 106. And on consumption, we're looking at 127 gallons per day per connection. This is up from 113 gallons per day in February. Comparing the last few Marches, this is something we've seen consistently, that basically consumption is moving back up.
Yeah.
12% since the last March. This is just, again, the aggregate use, but basically the same data, just showing over the last, this is what we have to submit as part of our drought report, where we submit this data to the state. Then for October, again, this is just data that gets where we add this tranche every time we do the meter reads. So now we're looking at the last one, this little blue got added. It was downtown October, November, December. So interestingly here, while we had been seeing a trend towards all of these being increased, or I guess they were
pretty comparable.
Yeah, pretty comparable compared to last year. So if you think about that, don't think about it too deeply, because you might get confused. No, it's just that when I look at consumption, remember that that's water we send to the town. So where you see a discrepancy between meter use and consumption, that's on us. That's basically water loss, right? Due to leaks or whatever. So just keep that in mind.
Sorry, you mean production and consumption? Water use and consumption are the same thing, right?
Water use, no, so sorry, there's two ways to measure consumption. One is looking at how much our customers are consuming. So that's what this data is, right? We're looking at post meter, tracking, okay, we have 500 and whatever meters, and we add it all together. And obviously it's complicated because we don't get to look at all of the 580 meters. We're just looking downtown for their 3-month usage. But with that caveat, we're looking at, okay, that's how much those customers used within the last 3 months. Okay. Now, when you see that and this again gets into, it's very difficult to tease apart our data because of our staggered meter reading, okay, and it being on a quarterly basis and all of that. But when you look at the production and consumption that I just showed that we report to the state, the production is how much water we produce literally at the plant and put into storage that ultimately went to the town or sat in storage and built up a reserve or whatever it did. And then there's consumption, which is how much water do we send to the town? Okay, if we had perfect data, like as in reliable monthly data that we could compare exactly to this, and we said, how much did all of the 580 folks use in town versus how much did we send to them? Whenever those numbers diverge, and they're always diverging, ideally they're diverging in one way, otherwise your meters are not doing a good job. You're sending more than people are consuming post meter. And that discrepancy, the bigger that is, the worse your system is doing, right? Because you're basically losing water. So our loss is around 23%. It's huge, right? It's and we have to report all of this as part of our annual reporting. But basically that's, again, so it's what I was trying to say is like when you see these numbers, and again, it's really dirty and difficult to tease apart because of how we do our metered rates. So if you look at these data right here, right, like as an example, and this is super confusing and I don't want to totally kill us looking at this, but you can imagine downtown in particular is a lot of second homes. So their water use goes up a lot during the summer. So right now, when we're looking at, say, water use downtown October, November, December, we're looking at nominal water use relative to what they use at other points in the season, right? So it's hard, like, again, to compare this little blue tranche to our actual like average usage, because they're totally, the data is being collected in entirely different ways, right? But I mean, again, this is part of what will be so nice about going to automated meters, where we can just say, hey, how much water did folks use over the last month? And that can be directly compared to, okay, how much water did we send to town? You just have the data is so much cleaner in terms of being able to compare those numbers and really getting a better sense of what your true water loss is. Because we have to go through this whole ridiculous estimation that I was like, I'd modified how we did it, because I was thinking like, oh, we could probably get to something that's more accurate here. But it's like all these hoops that we have to jump through because of our staggered quarterly meter reads. Okay. Rainfall. So the district's rainfall is the cumulative rainfall plot that you guys are used to looking at. So we're down from the average. So we're at 23.14 inches since July, where the historical average is at 29. Obviously, we just had that big, water storm of an inch at least. And then this is basically just looking at cumulative rainfall. So kind of interesting that it's going the opposite direction of our consumption. Yeah. Interesting in quotes. Okay. And then here is what I'm going to turn on, but nobody talk. No attention to the garbage.
That was pretty good. I mean, that's, if we had a dry.
Okay, sorry, that.
No trouble.
Sorry, I'm just gonna say a couple of things here. So that was last month. And this is this month, 4/13, right after that rain. So. All right. Okay, that brings us to the reservoirs, more videos. I won't bring sound into it, but you can see this is the lower, the Woodrat 1 near the plant. Just looking at, you can see little bits of Azolla creeping back already.
Yeah.
But it's very pretty.
Yeah, it is.
And then this is Woodrat 2.
So they're overflowing, huh?
Yeah, they're both spilling now with that rain. I mean, I think they were just teetering on not spilling, and then we got that rain and they are now spilling again. But it's probably not gonna last very long. Okay, so then that brings us to our leaks. So we finished our paving on Grove. Piazza helped us with that one. I told you about a Hawthorne leak that was very small and just kind of we finally got to an opportunity to repair that. We changed out about 13 feet of the C900. So it's nice that we're kind of getting into the habit of just doing these bigger, when we have to repair a leak, just changing out larger sections. We were back to Birch again to do a clamp.
Yes, you were.
That's here.
That's me.
Yeah, there's Grace. Hi, Grace. Anyways, this was just a clamp, but we will get materials in to do a kind of larger stretch. And this will actually be kind of nice in that it's basically going to end up being with the two replacements that we did recently, 40 feet of new piping. Okay, and then that brings us to the large leak at Purple Gate. So I'm just going to show you, I actually just wanted to walk through kind of like how that all went down. So it was the Saturday before Easter, as you all know. Andrew Spalding was on call that day, and he looked at, one of the first things they do is called like the daily run, where you go around and, basically collect all of this data. One of those data points is the consumption that we were just talking about, basically how much water do we send to town, and it was really high. So whenever that happens, then basically you're alerted to look for a leak, or, and especially as high as it is, like sometimes consumption's really high and we're like, that just could be, a few people having leaks on their side or whatever. But this was really high. And so basically at 7 a.m, he calls in first he does some attempt to look for it on his own. And then he calls in the rest of field staff, and they basically from the morning till 3 p.m. are looking for this leak and cannot find it. And meanwhile, they're producing a lot of water to basically compensate for that water loss. And then around 3 p.m. they basically give up and are like, we're gonna have to wait for somebody to call this in. And as soon as they head home, somebody called it in at Purple Gate.
Are they just, when you say they're looking for the leak, are they visually looking, driving around, or is it, or do we have any infrastructure along our system that says, like, can we isolate, how much water is going where, or is it really like from the plant?
Yeah, we have
This much
nothing,
water is
but
going.
I've also wondered about that, like, right, like, couldn't you have little meters that basically tell you, wait, there's way too much? I mean, as it turns out, this one would have told you nothing because it was so upstream in the trunk, right? But where, at least, it's so you would just basically, well, actually, I guess if you had a meter down
Yeah, past it.
then
He
you
knows
could-
between those 2 meters.
Yeah.
Right?
So I don't know to what extent people use a lot of that. I'd like researched it at one point because I started thinking about that too. I was like, can't you just like but anyway, so
Yeah.
I think it's possible, and to the extent that people use that, probably they do, but we do not have any of that. Okay, so this is literally what it looked like before we'd done any repair, and Andrew is suspecting that it's that service line, and now you can see the water that's gushing out there. I don't know if you guys saw that. But this is basically the service line that he's suspecting. It's not moving, right? So it's not on their side. And then you can see all of this water flowing. Okay, and then we basically, that happens around 3 p.m., as I was saying, that we discover where it is. And then we start posting on, I think actually Bella had started posting on Nextdoor and alerting folks to, hey, there's a large leak. We're starting to try to figure out where it is and all of that.
Yeah.
And then once we knew where it was, and Piazza was planning to come out and it was available to help us fix the leak, then we basically started to post more definitive information on Nextdoor. And during this time, we were also communicating with George at the fire department, Chief Krakauer. And so he had secured water tenders from Stinson, just letting people know. I think some people were under the impression that we had no water. We still have a hydrant at the tank that is past the shutoff valve, or sorry, upstream of the shutoff valve. So there was still potential for the fire department to get water from that fire hydrant. And then basically, had to make a decision, and we decided to use Alert Marin. That's the first time we've used it. I think I presented to you guys on that when Marin was an OEM was moving over from Nixle to Alert Marin. There was basically an onboarding of like districts and other agencies that effectively had the authority to use that system. They were pretty clear though that they didn't want us to use it for like, there's a leak on Birch, it has to kind of rise to that level. So this was sort of right at the point, the ways that we've formally said that we'll use it are like boil water notice. And there's some important, I talked about this last time, but I just think it's a good opportunity because it was a huge learning opportunity for us to have gone through that and just kind of think about how we would use the system going forward, etc. But the way that we formally said we're going to use it is through boil water notices. And you can imagine, obviously, those are like, potentially the water's contaminated and you can't drink it and you need to let everyone know. And the important thing about Alert Marin versus like another opt-in type service that say we would have in-house that I, like talked about in terms of the billing software that we're hoping to think about engaging, is that Alert Marin has the authority to send a text message to anybody within a vicinity, whether or not they've signed up, right? Because it's an emergency alert system. So for a boil water notice, let's say people are like Airbnb-ing a home, you obviously would, it's much better to, piggyback on that system than say our own system. But anyways, it was this was sort of right at the threshold of, do we want to use Alert Marin, or do we want to just use Nextdoor and our other kind of means of alerting folks? So basically the other thing is that you have to keep messages small. We don't have a lot of control. We're like effectively relaying that message. So basically our decision was, we'll use Alert Marin to let everybody know, but in that message, we'll direct everybody to our website. And so that was our primary means to communicate around the details of the emergency. I think, in retrospect, it got, I think, a lot of publicity because we basically were contacted by the press, and then we were in the Chronicle and all of this stuff. I think a big part of that was having used Alert Marin, because we have had a water shut off within the last 2 years and none of that happened. So it definitely engages the community, but again, it's a little bit of, it was impactful, but in reality, we shut off water. A lot of people didn't even know that the water was shut off because there was still obviously residual water. The only thing we would remind people is if you get a message from us that water is shut off, please don't use the water, because it just introduces a lot more air into the system. In as much as we can keep the system intact, it means less time air blowing off all of the air that's been sucked into the system. So that was basically it. I have some more pictures that are pretty.
Can I just ask something about that system that we use? Because I was pleased that Bell sent out a notice to say water is back on. Go to our. I can't remember how she did that, but I'm assuming that service you can't. And you say, town, we've shut off our water. Are you able to come back and say, town, our water is back on?
In fact, they insist on it. Yeah. So basically, Alert Marin needs you to open a ticket basically, and you have to close the ticket. So essentially we said, okay, it's been fixed. You can let folks know.
Yeah.
Again, our primary means to send detailed information was through the website. Because we can't be remember to try to, run your tap for 20 minutes so that you can run some of the air. It's not that level of detail, right? And obviously, if we had our own alert system, we could send out and disseminate messages that are more detailed and aren't emergency in nature, but are still hey, post-emergency, this is everything you need to do.
But you could also send notice to the directors. I mean, the rest of you are probably on Nextdoor or something, but I'm not.
Okay.
So I didn't know about it until some friends of mine who saw it on Nextdoor contacted me to say, hey, what's going on? There's a big leak. I went, well, I haven't heard anything about it,
And then I was turning water on, and I was like, I had water.
So
right?
In addition to if it's going to Nextdoor, it should also come to the board.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
because
I definitely feel a lot of.
Yes.
What do you think about the timing of the Alert Marin notifications? Because, I got mine at 6:07 p.m. So just before the water was about to be turned off, which doesn't really allow time to go fill, go grab a jug or tell your neighbors, or it seemed like it was very close. It was many hours after, or a few hours after I happened to get a text from somebody saying, oh, hey, I heard the water's going to be shut off. So there's that delay when people know about it.
Yeah.
But you're not sending the actual alert, which tells everybody, which I think that should be, narrow.
Yeah, I think the difficulty that we were dealing with there is that some people would only get this Alert Marin message, right? And maybe they don't go to the website or anything like that. And basically, if we said we had no idea when the water was, we had, basically we're scrambling. We don't know when Piazza is going to come out. So we wanted to be able to deliver a message on Alert Marin that says the water will be off at this point in time. If we had delivered that message much earlier, then we were afraid that it was going to be very vague in nature, like the water may be turned off at some point in the evening, you know, like it was just like that's basically it. Again, if we had our own alert, like, so I'm picturing, to me, this is sort of, if we had our own system, I might not have used Alert Marin, or I may have decided to use Alert Marin in conjunction.
Right.
And then anything we were doing on Nextdoor obviously would have been through our own system. So we would have, as soon as we started seeing consumption, hey, consumption is high, folks, be alert that there's a, you know, exactly what Belle posted much earlier, right? In the event where she's like, fill jugs and da 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 da. The other thing is, we'd never used Alert Marin. And like, while, you know, it was, some of it was like back and forth between George and I to just figure out like, okay, we're doing this. What's the best way to, you know, engage that message? Basically, what I've also done post this whole experience is contact OEM, and we'll have like a post-mortem with them to basically say, hey, this is how we did it. Do you think that this rose to the threshold of, you know, using the system? How, you know, exactly these questions. Could we have used it earlier and had multiple messages? Like, what is, you know, because they have a bit of a like little boy who cried wolf type thing that they really need to make sure that it's like raising to this.
It seems like they send me controlled burn notices all the time.
Yeah, that's true. But I think there's a way in which you're like control burn, you know, so you can kind of compartmentalize these things. And so from our standpoint, it's like we want to maintain that salience of like, if we're using Alert Marin, then it's a big deal.
But it came through an email, didn't it? Sorry.
No, it came on a text.
It came through a voice too.
Yeah, there was a voice.
Voicemail.
Also, just to say, I actually think that tightening up our own like type of text messaging for sure, but I think this worked really well in terms of what we initially put out as soon as we could on Nextdoor when we knew that it was going to be turned off, was like, hey, the water's going to be turned off, please let all your neighbors know. And so like you guys all heard from even if you weren't on Nextdoor, people heard and people put the word out, and I felt like that was really a great community sort of, you know, way of disseminating the information. Not that we want to rely on that, and I think the Alert Marin is also good if it's a serious thing, but I feel like it worked really well to put that message out as well.
I agree. I heard from about 3 different people well before Alert Marin. But however, it being a holiday weekend, and this is a situation we run into a lot out here, where we've got a lot of people in town who aren't from here.
Yes, yeah.
Who would have nobody's going to call them up unless you happen to have some really nice neighbor to your Airbnb. And I think that piece is really important. And
and
it's nice for those people to hear a little bit earlier. And I think you guys did a great job. Like this is we're just really we're not
I'm not criticizing.
No, I mean, I think it's fine. I mean, we're also, you know, it's a learning opportunity. Obviously,
exactly.
We don't have to go through that all the time, but it was just like, you know, it's kind of one of those ways in which, unfortunately or fortunately, like when you go through the emergency, then that's when you're like, oh, that's what we'll do next time. And then the other thing, though, just to reiterate what I said, Grace, like that's the issue, and that we'll get to even when we have our own alert system. There are a ton of, because of the nature of this town now, especially now, there are a ton of visitors, and so that alert system, it's going to be an opt-in. Like there are real restrictions on you know, unsolicited texts. So we can't have a system where we would alert everybody that's, you know, within the vicinity of a cell tower, which is obviously how, you know, Alert Marin works. So it may still be a situation, like I said, where even once we have our own text alert system, we still have to come up with what is that threshold where, you know, we need to alert everybody. Is it a water shut off where they're not going to have water for a couple of hours?
I think absolutely it is, because you've got people with health issues, potentially, or small babies. I think a water shut off for a couple of hours for the whole town is 100%.
And you also can't predict if it will only be for 2 hours. It might have gone all night. You know, people have horses in town and they have to care. I think shutting off the water is definitely a good use of it.
Shouldn't our disaster council have been taking care of that in some, because some people did get their disaster person to make those calls, but that was pretty irregular and.
I didn't hear from mine, yeah. Sure.
It did seem as though that would be the perfect time.
Who pulls that trigger? Is that
I
Chief
think
Krakauer?
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's good. Keep
Okay.
going on the agenda.
Anyway. Okay, so this is basically the leak being fixed. The other complication was that there was a huge culvert that was over the infrastructure, which made the repair more complicated. This is us now, or Piazza replacing that culvert. And
Culvert is that? Is the county's culvert?
no, it's not the county's culvert, at least the county claims it's not. And so it's basically, you know, leading down to Jack's Creek. So there's a ton of water that goes through there. We knew that rain was coming that week, so we had to replace it quickly. This is basically the blow off. I was saying there gets a lot of air in there. You can see it's a ton of air after these events. Okay. And then we've already talked about this emergency response, so I'm just gonna move ahead. The other thing that happened right after this was a massive leak in the plant.
Of course.
Yes. Which was really hard on the staff, I think, just at
Yeah.
that point. So spread thin, but
Totally unassociated,
yeah,
obviously, yeah.
but that was a lot of water. And luckily, you know, the praise for Evan and his leak detectors is never ending. Okay, our dump truck is out of commission, just pointing out this is kind of, you know, something that we're trying to do a better job of, but basically this dump truck is from 2004, and we need to figure out how to tow it and get it repaired. Then right on the Friday before the Purple Gate leak, we had a really large sewer blockage. So just reminding people not to throw stuff in the sewer that doesn't belong there, such as rags or, you know, even wipes, and fats, oils, and grease. Spray season started today and we passed our BODs, the basically the chemical tests that we have to do to make sure that we can safely spray. So that happened today. We passed that test. And this is just to point out, since it's we have a thread where we post images, and a lot of times it's leaks, but sometimes it's
Oh, is that an otter?
it's an otter.
Amazing.
River otter.
Yes.
How exciting.
And then
Where was that? The river otter?
I think it's out by the plant.
It looks like it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, that's very cool.
Yes.
I'm gonna kill deer.
We have our resource recovery well project moving along. The other 31 Wharf, sorry, I'm having trouble forwarding this slide. Oops. Okay, it's a sign.
No, Jack.
Sorry, there's something that's making it difficult to move here. But basically 31 Wharf is moving along, and it looks like we may get the tanks set down, or the tank set downtown on the property, because they're preparing our pad as soon as next Friday. Geez. The OPC grant is moving forward. I'll share the GIS next meeting. We're at 99 participants, just reminding the public that we will give some sort of secret gift to the 100th customer. I showed you guys
Withdraw mine and.
I showed these rusted stair, whatever you call them, banisters associated with the groin. Said we were going to remove them. We removed them and replaced it with wood, so at least it's, you know, not the most beautiful thing in the world, but at least it doesn't look so threateningly dangerous.
That's really great.
Last Thursday, we helped the fire department address tree damage on Overlook from Recology's new larger truck that was servicing Galena. So I'm not sure if other people are aware, but they got larger trucks. We've are a little concerned about the weight. Like, we didn't know that this was happening, and just whether they're heavier and could impact our infrastructure. So, you know, sent emails and today to just basically inquire about this. But they'll probably be here tomorrow, I'm guessing. Reminder that April 27th is the start of the Marin Wild Fire Protection Authority's hazardous tree removal along the roadside. So you probably saw the approval for the Garland 4 that you guys approved last time. We put signage up so you can see those surrounding the property. And that is
Do
it.
you know how long that work's supposed to take?
No, I think it's like 3 weeks,
Will,
but
will it be one-way traffic, like with traffic
yeah, it's
control?
not
or-
it's not gonna be closure.
Okay.
April 28th, you said?
April 27th.
Fabulous.
Nice job.
All right.
Unfortunately, that's not the last thing in my meeting. We'll have to move forward.
Is that the end of manager's report?
Yes, that's the end of the manager's report.
Okay, so we'll go on to item 13, the Bike Path Coastal Development Permit application.
Yeah, just letting you guys see that we submitted our coastal development permit for the bike path. We'll know about that, once they respond. I'll keep
Okay.
you guys updated.
The only bolded item that I'm gonna call in is item 18, Finance Committee.
And we'll talk about that in the form of minutes.
Okay, then that's what we're gonna go down to next. Approval of minutes, item 21. First, we got the regular meeting of March 18th.
Over to you, Kevin.
No comments for you. Now you're just making fun.
I'm not. No, because Vic always read them so scrupulously, and it's so wonderful that you have taken over that role.
Yes.
I appreciate it. I'm not teasing. I really do appreciate it.
Okay, so we have, well, they're not in chronology, obviously, because then they go to the Finance Committee meeting, which was before.
Yeah, that's because we couldn't approve them last time because remember there was a download issue.
Okay, well, since it's I'm just gonna take them in order shown.
Okay.
So can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of March 18th?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
All right, okay, item 22 is the Finance Committee meeting minutes of March 12th. Can I get a motion to approve those?
Finance meeting, yes.
Is that just the finance committee that does that, or do we all do that?
No, just the finance committee.
Well,
We don't have an Andrew today, so.
We only have one person here from the
do we
committee.
have to wait?
That's
till he
fine.
comes
Do
back?
we?
I don't know.
I always thought the board would just, I mean, we used to. always
Okay,
vote.
just you can approve them, I guess.
Let's get a motion to approve them.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we used to do, yes, ask the person who was there.
Yeah.
If they look okay to you?
Okay.
Okay, a motion to approve then the Finance Committee meeting minutes of March 12th.
These are the otter notes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so you wanna make the, okay, moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then the Finance Committee meeting minutes of March the 27th. Kristen, did they look okay to you also?
Yes, but it doesn't say who was attending.
Oh. Okay. Open meeting.
We okay?
Otter one.
All right,
I think it.
So is there-
who was attending.
Andrew,
I need a motion.
I will add that information.
Okay, so I make a motion to
To
approve
approve
that
as
contingent on who attended the meeting.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then the special meeting that we had,
That might have a similar, does it have an?
No.
No. Okay.
don't have the,
I haven't seen those yet. Did those go out?
Yeah,
No, I missed that.
sorry.
You-
We put them on late because the
It was
meeting
only day
just
before
happened.
yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't see them either.
You wanna kick those over to the next time, give people a chance?
sure. I mean, to let you know, actually, we failed to record that meeting.
I was
So,
wondering about that, actually.
yeah, because remember when Rob was coming in and he said he couldn't hear us?
Yeah.
That's the reason why.
That's the open portion of the meeting you're talking about.
Yes,
Okay.
yep. And so we had and you can see the minutes basically talk about, I mean, fortunately, it was just me droning on and you guys asking clarifying questions. So basically what I did was just summarize the presentation that
Yeah.
I made and referenced it.
Okay.
So if we were gonna forget to record a meeting, that wasn't a terrible one because we have basically the deck that speaks for itself. Then we went into closed session, came out, there was no reportable action. And then we resumed the budget discussion and and adjourned. So there wasn't much going on. as far as meeting minutes.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's gonna be part of the supporting materials for the.
Yes,
Prop 218.
yeah, exactly.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like that's plenty.
And
That's
I thought about introducing some questions that you guys had, like, but really they were often like you asked a question, I was like, we're gonna talk about that in 2 slides. So it was not
several times.
yes, yeah. So it was pretty structured around the deck.
Well, I think the one page that you wrote up that represents them, a page and a half, looks good
See,
to
so
me.
that's not on my drive. Item 24, it's not in there. So I feel like the drive does funny things sometimes.
Yeah, okay, great.
Okay, well,
I also don't have it.
let's put it off to the May agenda then.
Okay.
Okay. Takes us to the warrant, item 25 on the agenda. Anybody have any questions or comments on the warrants?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What is the shed reimbursement?
Oh, shed reimbursement. That is
800.
yeah. So as part, I've showed you guys that that's basically for resource recovery. Oh, sorry. What's that?
Oh, I was just going to say resource recovery.
Yeah, so when we had to, I talked about this and I showed you guys pictures, but basically down at resource recovery, we needed to clean up the facility in order, that was the stipulation of Division of Drinking Water, remember? So we auctioned off all of this mobile equipment. And then additionally, we had a shed built that's like basically a tool shed for the resource recovery. So that's not part of the resource recovery drought well project. It's something that essentially the resource recovery paid for.
Okay. Any
Capital
other
One,
questions?
Capital One, kind of like arbitrary, 4,300.
Let me see. Mm. I mean, it's just charges. I could send you the individual. It's just various things that were charged onto the credit card. So it's like a month's worth of credit card charges.
Have those.
Do we? Okay. I don't recall seeing that. That's why.
Yeah, we
I can find, I mean, yeah, we just have to go through and see. There's probably a couple of pieces of like equipment for the plant or something that is on there. Or either safety gear or something like that, but happy to send you the
No, I don't need to see it as
listing.
long as you know. You obviously reviewed it. I just okay.
Any other questions or items?
The other ones are, they're big ones, but they seem to be pretty
Legit?
clear.
Yeah. How about you, Kevin?
I mean, city sewer pump to the lab tank, is that a septic thing or what's the lab tank? That's a $7,000 charge. It's a big one.
Yeah, we basically have been working on refurbishing the septic tank at the lab in preparation for our eventual rehab of the lab building.
Okay.
That was something that we wanted to get squared away to begin with. So they redid the risers and, did pressure tests and stuff like that. So
Okay, so it's big, not just the pump out, but
no,
the maintenance
yes,
and
this
upgrades.
was maintenance.
Great.
Any other? And if no one has any more, can I get a motion to approve the warrants?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second. I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that takes us through the agenda.
Yep.
Incoming correspondence.
We have one thing from the Alliance of Coastal Marin Villages. It was actually a meeting that was held Monday at the same time as our meeting, so I didn't get to attend it. So I just wanted to share with the board the meeting minutes from that meeting and the broader community. Essentially, there's this West Marin vision planning that is some CDA community. I mean, actually, it's broader in the county office to kind of, I don't know, develop a plan on how to approach West Marin and all of the issues out here. So it's very broad in nature. It's a little nebulous at this point, but I just wanted to let the community know that the county is making this effort And it looks like they'll probably develop a commission around that, and so folks should have their ears perked to if they want to get involved.
Is that something you're gonna get roped into being on since you're our representative?
Yeah,
Marin
possibly.
Alliance of Coastal Marin Villages.
Yeah,
Okay,
likely.
yeah.
So we'll see. And that's it.
And then the materials to be signed, they've got checks, which I'm signing now.
Great,
Somebody else
thank
can do
you.
the same. And future agenda items.
A
Sure.
few, but we'll track them in our meeting minutes. We had the beach entrances as far as I remember.
Yeah.
We had something else.
The laundromat was talked about,
Yeah.
possibly looking into.
Okay, I can probably do that just in a manager's report.
Okay, great. The growing lease, we talked about that, I think, last month. Has there been any movement on that?
We have consulted with council, but I haven't heard back yet. So that is contingent on, their opinions on the, and you guys approved this last time. This was basically approve council to review the 2 leases and see if, what we're getting ourselves into or if there's any off ramp.
And then the mega ordinance workshop you've mentioned, is that something you're looking at, you say for next year, like 2027?
Yeah, 26, 27. I'm thinking, and I would do it as like, a workshop, kind of like, a set aside couple of hours where all you would be doing is reviewing that ordinance.
Also, Jenny asked us about the electricity discussion. She wanted us to bring that up too.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
I guess I'm a little uncomfortable with the laundromat thing.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
A break that they get.
No, not that.
That it's so hard to keep from.
Us looking at their, it's like looking at what the Coast Cafe is choosing to charge for their.
No, I'm not suggesting we look at their finances. I'm saying we look at the BPUD decision that was made here.
Right, I
And
understand that.
see just what it was, because none of us know what it was, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think
how much other laundromats are
No, I think that's appropriate because you're making an exception here, right? The Coast Cafe we just talked about are going to be impacted by tiered rates. And because they use more water associated with their business, just like the laundromat. So I don't know if this is true, but my understanding was that the decision of the board at the time was really that if the laundromat had to charge a lot of, or had to pay a lot to the BPUD for its water use because of the nature of its business, that would mean that they would have to charge more for their load, to the customers. And then, so that seems like, and so then you have this carved out exception for that business.
Yeah.
But if they are not passing that savings on to their customers, then why are you carving out an exception for them? That's kind of what I'm with,
If that was an agreement we had, then we should make sure they're honoring that, that's all.
Did we ever ask them to?
Well, that's what I wanna find out.
Yeah.
Ask them to what shows they're booked.
Yeah.
No.
Of course we could.
No.
Detective, well, come on.
That's what I was saying, that the only way I could think of to evaluate the quote fairness of what they charge is to look at the closest laundromat and see what they charge.
Yeah.
And if it's comparable rate,
Well, you'd
then
have to look and see what their water company's charging them. I mean,
But
you'd have to really.
you don't want to get into their
Wait.
books, yeah.
I mean, yeah. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Well, all right, why don't we adjourn, let's, 2 more things, next meeting date? What is our
Like the
next?
20th, the
Mhm.
3rd.
Yeah, the
Wednesday
20th.
is the 20th of May.
20th of May, okay, and with that, this meeting is adjourned.
Hey.
All right.